This week's episode of This Is Only a Test is made possible by MailChimp. MailChimp is an easy-to-use marketing platform with a name that might make it sound like they only do email. But they do just about everything to help businesses grow, like ads, postcards, landing pages, audience management tools, automations, reports, and more. You could say MailChimp grew so much they outgrew their name, and their marketing tools can help you do the same. Go to MailChimp.com to sign up for free and see how MailChimp can help grow your business. MailChimp, they do more than email. For Thursday, actually, someone should say, hey, start the show. It's been a while since I've done this.
Hey, let's start the show.
For Thursday, November 22nd, happy Thanksgiving, everyone, 2018. Welcome to This Is Only a Test, the official podcast of Tested.com.
Something's wrong. This isn't the right song. 2 weeks in a row. You're going to hear from my manager again. Yeah, it's in my fucking writer.
I didn't get the right.
I don't ask for the brown M&Ms.
All right. Whew. It's been a hot minute. I'm Norm. I'm just going to introduce everyone. If you're listening to the audio, not watching the video, you may have heard the voices already. We have two original This Is Only a Test co-hosts on the show. This is an OG cast.
Is he original?
Yeah.
He came in like episode 5.
He came, well, if you recall, Will, of course, is on.
You wouldn't know it from the theme song.
Sans dubstep. I listened to that episode that you did with Jeremy and Kishore, and it's okay.
I'm frankly insulted.
I
expected better of you, Norm.
I like that you guys thought that was the theme the whole time. The dubstep theme. It wasn't special for you.
No, I knew that was special for me.
Okay, you knew it was special for you.
But then the other theme that Jeremy played, this New Madness.
Yeah.
That's not the theme. That's the new theme.
We like this theme.
It's a good theme.
And
I
also,
like that theme.
We have Gary.
Gary.
Hi.
Welcome back. You were on like 2 weeks ago, too.
I was on a few weeks ago, yeah, with Jeremy.
You know, that was the week.
I was here too, man.
You both were here. That was the week of the Apple event, and I listened to that podcast in the hospital.
Yeah.
And
it's good use of your time.
Labor lasts a long time. And
hey, honey, while you're in excessive pain, why don't we listen to this great episode of This Is Only a Test?
To listen to that podcast and listen to you guys talk about the Apple news.
Oh, it was painful, wasn't it?
It was so painful.
It was so bad.
You guys were Googling what was different about the MacBooks and
I think I mentioned at one point this is the least informed podcast I've ever even heard of, let alone been on.
You might have
really saying something.
You recorded, I think, the day after the event, so people were still digesting the news. And to be fair, the event was a little bit confusing because there was some updates.
Speaking of things that are confusing,
there were a lot of like weird product announcements from
I was very
MacBook
confused.
Air that was cheaper than the MacBook, and where that lines up and how they're different.
But still too expensive for what it is. It seems
right. Yeah. So I think it was a sign of a good podcast. That was my point, because all I wanted to do while listening to it was engage. I wanted to chime in.
You were screaming at the radio.
I was screaming at the radio.
It correctly replicated the confusion that consumers are feeling.
That's right.
So
that's right.
Here's the interesting thing about this year's Apple lineup. This is, I think, the first time in probably a decade since the iPhone 3G came out that I didn't give Apple any money this year. Like, I haven't bought any Apple hardware. Didn't buy a new phone. Probably not going to buy an iPad. Maybe next year, but not right now. No new laptop. No watch. No. I bought AirPods last year. I'm good there.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they're getting none of my money this year.
I was on that same train until I bought the new iPad Pro.
The iPad Pro's...
And that was maybe a moment of weakness because I was in the hospital and I was looking at the fancy new stuff. And again, there's a lot of nothing to do.
Wait, you got that and then had it delivered to the hospital?
No, I went home to pick it up. Okay. I needed to get some fresh air.
Was this during labor?
Excuse. No, it was right after.
Okay.
Right after the baby was born.
Jesus, Norm.
Maybe it was a moment of weakness, but it was nice and shiny. And my parents both got iPad Pros as well. My mom's on, actually. She was, her iPad she's on? She's on an iPad, the first Retina one, an iPad 3.
Oh, that's what Gina has. And it's unusable now.
Unusable.
So that would actually be a good upgrade.
That was a huge upgrade. But the Pro isn't for normal people.
No.
The Pro, I mean, it's for pros.
Is your mom a pro? She's probably not listening, so you can be honest.
She's a professional.
Okay.
But not in the computing sense.
She's a pro computer user.
No, she's
not.
But
Well, then the iPad Pro is probably perfect for her.
The screen's nice. It's a really nice big
same,
screen.
The same like gamut and stuff as the iPhone 10, right?
Yes, it is
So
a very
like
and it has the True Tone and it has 120 hertz, which
it has
no
that
other
nice,
device
super
has.
buttery smooth scrolling.
Yeah, I think that
It's
one
very
they
nice.
really
I like a
really
good
enjoy
scroll.
that. And the way that
That
my
seems worth
parents
$1,000.
use computers and iPads is they leave like all their tabs open.
Yeah.
You open Safari on their computers or their tablets, and it's like every tab they've ever opened is there. And so the memory management is better on that device.
Do you know the close all tabs trick? I just found this out the other day, and it's fucking magic. If you press and
That would
hold,
be a disaster
if
for
you
them.
press and hold the tab button
Yeah.
in Safari, then it says close this tab, close all 23 tabs, new
You have
private tab or
23
new
tabs open right now?
That's it. That's I clean
I never
it.
get to
I
that
keep
many.
it clean.
Well, on tablets, on mobile devices,
Who uses the
versus on desktop, tabs are done differently because
Yeah.
on your mobile device, the tabs aren't actually using memory in real time. It's just cache. It's like a bookmark.
Yeah, it's a
almost.
bookmark.
And so people use them like bookmarks. On your desktop, in Chrome, if you have like 30 tabs open, that's why Chrome
Yeah.
sucks. Then your computer's running at a crawl.
They do better with that now. Like they unload stuff that's on closed tabs and hasn't been used in a while, but it's still each one is a process. That was a selling point when they launched Chrome. They were like, look, if one tab crashes, it's not going to crash your whole browser. This is going to be great. 32 gigs of memory later.
Yeah. I miss being on the podcast, guys. I miss talking tech and talking things.
Look, you don't have a voice without a podcast. If you don't have a podcast, you're nobody these days.
know.
That's how it works.
Wow.
Yeah,
It was a glimpse on the other side. How did it feel when both of you guys stopped doing this podcast?
great.
I was fine.
I didn't have to start. I could stop reading tech news. It was terrific.
I think
Well,
that happened a long time
I
ago.
have my kind of funny gig now, so that
Yeah.
keeps me in the public sphere.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
it's-
yeah.
You want to talk about uninformed podcasts? You should listen to me.
Oh, it's great.
On Kind of Funny sometimes because I don't know anything. I have no idea what I'm talking about.
And you're not even kind of funny. You're like moderately funny at best.
Not even kinda, yeah.
Yeah.
And I make a
Occasionally.
point of not. I don't study or learn about anything that's happening in the news.
Man, they must
And
love
then I
you.
go co-present a news show.
Yeah.
Do they have
So it's
producers?
basically like,
do they like
Fox
set
News.
you up when you
Yes.
go in front of the teleprompter? They like give you a handout. Like
Darian
here are
friends.
your
Yeah.
here are your 10 topics to talk about this week, and an intern typed up 3-second briefs or 3-sentence briefs.
Yeah, I've
for all
got.
of them?
I show up.
Uh-huh.
I'm given a piece of paper that
Right.
has the day's news on it,
Right.
and then 5 minutes later, I'm sitting down reading the news.
critical
Did they give you any
analysis.
like zingers? They give you any like hits that you can like little bon mots you can drop in there to be
No,
funny?
I come up with all those
You
myself.
got to write that yourself, huh? That explains a lot.
I
You
do.
know,
They have a really neat screen behind their
Yeah,
behind their desk.
they have a very nice
It's
setup
really cool.
over there.
It has it's
You
like
should-
a
you
it's
should
like a
look into getting one of
jumbotron.
I'd
those.
love to come by. Get
That
some
goes
get
behind.
some mom waters. And
Yeah.
Yeah, they still
and
have
hang
quite a
out.
lot of that.
Hey, Will,
Hey,
we
Norm.
talked about when Gary, do you remember your first time being a regular on this podcast was with an Apple product? It was with the iPhone 4.
4, yeah.
It was
Was
with
it?
the iPhone 4 because it was when Apple accidentally shipped them out early.
Yeah.
We're talking about like
Didn't that happen
7,
during an
8 years
October
ago.
Yeah, no, that was 4 was during Oktobercast.
No.
The first
I think
thing
it
we
might
had,
be.
yeah, iPad was the first thing we had.
Right,
iPhone
but-
would have been in that fall.
Right, iPad was the first thing we had, but Gary, you did get the iPhone 4 early, and we had you come in because you were the only one we knew who had the iPhone
That was
with
during
then
Oktobercast.
a Retina display.
And then ours came during the show.
I barely remember this.
Well, of course. You have a kid.
Yeah,
You're-
this
you're
was
like-
back in the
You have a
distant
kid
past,
now.
and
You've
been
lost
through a lot.
15% of your
You're
brain
allowed
capacity
to lose
right
all your
now.
memory.
And
This-
that's my
it'll
point.
just
I
naturally
felt
happen.
it day by day. Over the 8 years of doing this podcast, all three of us have now had children.
Yeah.
And that's bearing the lead because our top story this week is
Congratulations.
Norm's a dad.
Oh, I thought it was going to be at Thanksgiving.
Oh, well, and happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving,
So
everybody.
this
But also
podcast is going out
congratulations,
on Thanksgiving Day. Is
People
that right?
should be getting on Thanksgiving. And back when,
American Thanksgiving.
yes, when's Canadian Thanksgiving?
Sometime else.
Some other time,
Like June,
some
maybe?
some ridiculous.
I feel
time.
like it's September or October. I remember telling everybody Happy Thanksgiving maybe 3 weeks ago, a month ago. I don't know.
Gary, you had your
October.
kid first.
Probably like
yes,
6
that's
months.
true.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
6 months before.
I
This
was the
is-
first one
Yeah.
of
I
this
got-
group.
I got to go back and listen to podcasts because I'm really curious
He was
What
already
you were
not showing
like.
up for this podcast by then.
when your kid
Yeah,
came
so just
out.
go back to like July 2012.
All right.
Yeah.
And then about February 2013
January 2013, yeah.
was when you had your kid.
Yeah.
Or your wife had your kid.
My wife
but
had
you
our
together
kid.
had a kid.
So,
I mean, if you're looking for pointers or advice, my advice is don't do that.
well, it's
Don't,
just
you're
an
not going to get
artifact.
anything of any
People-
value from either of us.
people
I'm-
still speak really fondly of the Dadcast. I get a lot of emails from people
bunch of
saying, hey,
dads.
will you bring a bunch of dads back?
I want this. let's bring him back.
It's just like an informal bunch of dads right now.
Here's what I've been thinking about Bunch of Dads.
Yeah.
I think we should bring it back as a Q&A show with like 2 people, because the panel was too many people to get together. Like getting 4 or 5 busy people together, way too hard.
And I think you talked about it as having one person there potentially not being a dad or an impending dad, and then scaring them with all the
It's nice to have a new dad.
Well,
you want to have a new, you want to have a medium, you want to have an old.
Okay.
Yeah.
And that's what we've got.
Yeah.
Well, no, we're both the same, essentially.
Are you both mediums or both olds?
I feel so old, though.
I mean, you look old. It's been rough.
It does. You're gonna you will now enter into dad stroke presidential years.
Yeah.
Like 5 or 6 years from now. I think you are so perfectly set up for the gray hair to come in.
I get gray hair.
Fully
I do have
expecting
gray
that.
hair in.
The white in the chin of my beard.
It gets plucked out.
Yeah. You can only do that for so long.
It's gonna become unpluckable.
Oh no! Don't tell me that.
You won't be able to. You won't be able to pluck all of it,
or you get big bald spots.
Your youthful good looks are gonna.
You will be
fade
totally
away,
plucked.
Norm.
But the 5 and 6 years since you guys had your kids, I don't think I fully appreciated.
No, it fucks you up, man.
What it was like, because I would hear your stories, and I would think intellectually, Will looks extra tired this morning, or Will's forgetting like 10-15% of his brain.
Will is really stupid all of a sudden now. Yeah,
and
that's
I was like,
thing.
oh, is this what happens with age?
Parenthood.
And I didn't get it and I've had it for 2 weeks now.
We've said this to you for years.
Yeah,
Parenthood,
he doesn't listen.
And particularly kind of the anxiety and the stress and the exhaustion that comes with it is like the Matrix. No one can be told what it is. You have to see it for yourself.
It's like Brendan Fraser learning baseball in Blast from the Past.
So there was a moment when our kid was maybe 3 months old when Gina looked at me and she was like, we're never going to catch up on sleep again, are we? Because like, you know, when you don't have a kid, you think, oh man, I can totally work without sleep for a long time. I can sleep I'm going to stay up and play Red Dead 2 until 3:00 in the morning. I'm going to get up, I'm going to roll into work. I'm going to be a zombie all day, and I'm going to go to bed at 6:00 tomorrow night, and I'll be good.
You can do that when you're a young man.
You can never do that when you have a kid, because the kid gets up at whenever the fucking kid gets up.
This is the thing that I was not prepared for.
No, I told you
because
it was going to happen.
I could do the first like 3 nights no problem, with like 2 or 3 hours of sleep, and it just felt like a late night.
And then you leave the hospital.
And then there was that moment, I think, over maybe this past weekend, when Dan and I looked at each other, and it's like, yeah, we got this. But then you realize you don't get the catch-up day.
Well, I mean, you can, but the other one is going to take the hit for it. Like, you guys have to trade off. Like, and she's boned because she's responsible for food right now.
It's death by 1,000 cuts.
Yeah, she can't sleep. So it's much worse for your wife.
Because it's
like,
a slow burn. Like,
yeah.
it just adds on and builds up and builds up. And
do you remember the first trip we took after my daughter was born, when we got to Houston with Dave Chang and Tracy Desjardins?
Yep.
And we got there, and you and Joey were like, hey, let's go out, and we're going to go out and get some beers. I was like, see you guys later. I'm going to sleep at 5:00 in the afternoon.
I remember that.
Which was really 2:00 our time.
Boy, I'm really looking forward to going on trips.
Yeah, you need to book a trip fast, man.
Don't tell my wife.
Don't listen. Danica, if you're listening to this, I'm so sorry.
So
it's hard.
I'll give a little bit of a primer on our birth story. I guess that's what people call it, right? What happened?
Yeah, it's the thing part everybody loves to hear about.
Well, it's what I lived through.
No, I know. It's an important part of the thing, but yeah.
So
the tested audience wants to hear this, Norm.
Yeah.
And you guys know some of this.
You.
Did you build a scoop to catch?
No. Well, the baby was due October 31st.
Halloween.
We really wanted a Halloween baby.
Yeah.
And so
that would be cool, because years down the road when you go out trick or treating, it's also the birthday.
Exactly. Yeah. And actually, my housemate, his birthday is on Halloween.
How's
so
that
we
worked
had
out
some
for him?
firsthand experience, and he's enjoyed it.
Okay.
We know some people who they say, yeah, it sucks because you got to share a birthday with other people, but then you're forced to dress up for your birthday, and we really like the idea. And if you're watching that Sabrina show on Netflix, her birthday's on Halloween. So,
is that the girl from Mad Men?
Mad Men. It is
the daughter
from Mad Max. From Mad Men.
That is Sally Draper.
Sally Draper. Yeah, she was awesome.
And so we were all planning for a Halloween birthday. That was our 40 weeks. I started taking time off about half a week before that.
It was a bold choice, by the way.
Well, I wanted to be prepared.
Yeah.
You must have known, though. I mean, I know that you had a pretty good expectation that it was going to be on that day. But at the same time, it's very rare that the baby comes on the actual day it's expected.
I think they said 5%.
5%.
Yeah.
babies arrive on their day, and they can track, right? They track the size of the belly. They track, all sorts of medical things that the OBs do. And our baby was actually tracking early, so we were freaked out like a week and a half before. We were like,
No October
hold
babies.
hold it till Halloween. And so we were doing things to try to be active. I went to see a ton of movies, maxed out our AMC pass, watched so many movies that week leading up to Halloween. And then as we crept closer to Halloween, nothing was happening. There were no signs of labor, no water breaking. And we had a doctor's appointment that Monday before Halloween. Halloween was on a Wednesday. And the doctor told us, you're not going to get Halloween, And so can we discuss, could we induce?
This is like that Apollo 13 moment. Like the doctor's like, well, Norm, Danica, we have a problem.
Oh, they
we lost the moon. We've lost the moon.
Poured a thing on the
Yeah.
on the stuff on the table and say, how do you fit a baby through here,
Yeah.
making this shape? So we had to resign ourselves to the fact that we would probably have to wait for after Halloween. And that week, waiting from 40 weeks to 41 weeks was probably the toughest part, because it's the uncertainty of like baby could come any minute.
Well, and Danica's horrifically uncomfortable.
So uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine what it's like to have the weight in front of you, being unbalanced, being stressed out. And every night we'd go to bed and like worry that we'd have to wake up at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
and water would break or something. We'd go to the hospital because we
Did you make her
ideally-
sleep on a garbage bag or anything?
No.
Okay,
no.
that's nice.
But we were worried that we would be caught off guard.
Yeah.
Essentially, like we were on edge for a whole week. It's a different kind of edging, and
It's pretty extreme.
it got to the next week. We had another doctor's appointment, and at that point, it was November 4th, and we're like, no, we want this baby now. We don't want to wait any longer. So we induced, and the baby came out November 6th, which is
So it was a 30-hour labor-ish?
yeah. So when you induce,
Yeah, we did this.
they give you medication, like oral medication, and then something through an IV
Pitocin.
that just which Pitocin is just the
It's the hormone that induces...
it's the brand name for oxytocin.
Oh.
And your bodies can naturally generate oxytocin with hugs and stuff.
So you didn't hug your wife enough is why you
Oh
had that
no,
baby
we were
on
saying
time.
when we thought the baby was coming out early, we're like, oh, we can't hug, we can't, no oxytocin.
Oh yeah, don't
Withholding-
let her look at
withholding
anything cute.
oxytocin.
No.
Or else the baby would come early. So they give you Pitocin, they give you some other oral medication, and that's supposed to induce labor. But it adds like 12 hours to the whole process. And so even if we had like induced on October 30th,
Yeah.
it could have been a November 1st baby. Like there's no guarantee. And sometimes it doesn't even work. Sometimes you just have to go home and wait it out because the baby's ready when
But
the
what you
baby's ready.
discover after the fact when the baby is born is that you don't really care what day it was. You're just happy to have the baby.
Oh
10
yeah.
fingers and 10 toes, man.
Yeah, and so we
whatever
went through the
number.
whole process. Got the medication. Was in the hospital for like over a day, and we ended up having a C-section, and that happened because I think I was texting with you guys, keeping you guys up to date.
Yeah.
With what was going on, and that happened very quickly. It went from
it
labor
was
is going to
fast.
start, and now the pushing will begin, to doctor saying we should have a C-section, and then I think I texted you guys, C-section's happening, and like 15 minutes later,
Yeah.
There's
Baby's
a baby.
here.
baby was born, and that was insane.
Well, it's
Yeah,
one of
once they actually get into the business of doing a C-section, there's no messing around.
No,
it just gets done.
It's in the high gear, and they take you to the operating room. You put on the scrubs. You're not supposed to touch anything. There's an anesthesiologist. Everyone's like, Danica and I are freaking out, of course.
and there's a bunch of people in there.
bunch of people, nurses in there, and baby comes out. Baby gets handed over to like a team of 3 nurses, and they take it to
and
a
it's like
station.
you know what
and
it's like. It's like a pit crew.
it is. I have that video. I have the video of the nurses basically flipping the baby around. And
Yeah,
and
they're
then
super
wiping
fast.
them
Is it like,
up.
do you
and-
hear the
and
cry?
checking things.
You hear the cry?
Oh yeah,
Okay,
baby's
see,
crying the entire
The cry
time.
was the best sound I'd ever heard because the cry took longer than I felt like it should take, and we were a natural vaginal birth,
Right.
but it was like it was probably 30 seconds,
Yeah.
but it was the longest 30 seconds of my life, right?
What were you guys thinking when you first saw your baby?
Well,
I'm really curious.
So for me, honestly, the thing I was thinking, we were induced because Gina had blood pressure issues and they were worried about it. So they induced her, and we went at like same time you did it, like 10 o'clock the night before she was born. And like they started the oral medicine, they started the Pitocin drip about 2 o'clock in the morning, and then the baby was there at like 10 o'clock. And all I was thinking was, holy shit, there's only one nurse and the doctor in here. because like that's the doctor barely made it. We
Right.
like he hauled ass across town to get there in time, and he came in and looked and was like, "Oh, I got to put my clothes on," and he just pulled a gown on right over top of what he was wearing and like jumped right in. And the whole time I was thinking it was us and Roxanne, the delivery nurse, who like she scooped up the doctor handed me the baby, I handed the baby to Gina, and then like 10 seconds later she grabbed the baby, I cut the cord, they went over and did the scrub and the weighing and all that. I mean, it was more than 10 seconds, but it seemed really fast. All I was thinking was, holy shit, I can't believe there's only 2 people in here that know what they're doing.
That's
Yeah.
the whole system. And Gary, how about you?
How did I feel?
Yeah, the moment you saw your baby,
You
was
guys
it
have been at it
relief?
for a really long time.
Was
Yeah,
it-
we had it was a 52. I always hesitate to say we because I mean I was there as well, but Leah did 99.9% of the work. I
Yeah.
was just an observer. 52 hours of labor and then a C-section, so it was rough. And you know the epidural didn't take,
Oh,
so like Leah was in a lot of discomfort. You know, and I use that term very mildly for a lot of it. And it was rough. Like the baby's head was like so close to coming out, and it just. We had a similar situation to you that every time it was close, the baby's heart rate would drop, and they would say, "Oh, we don't like that," and well, I don't like that either.
Yeah.
And I actually learned to kind of read the heart rate monitor. I could tell when it was normal and when something was not quite right, and for a long time I was very nervous about that. And then they like around midnight or around 2 a.m. on, I guess what would have been now the third day, because we're 52 hours in, they said, well, we can try a couple of things. We could try forceps delivery, you know, where they literally kind of grab the baby's head with a pair of
Clamps.
tongs
Yeah.
and yank it out.
Yeah.
So, but we don't like to do that. You can try. You can go for a scheduled like a C-section now,
Right.
and you can all go in, and Dad can be in there as well, or you can try pushing again. But if you try pushing again and it doesn't go great, we have to rush you into a C-section, and then Dad can't come in. So we decided that we would just do the C-section, and it wasn't, wasn't anyone's first choice.
It's not like it was 3 hours away.
Really, I mean, some people do decide to have a C-section and schedule it, but that wasn't what we had planned. I mean, we were a home birth. We planned to be a home birth, and ended up, in the most surgical, from the least hospital type situation to the most hospital type situation, from one to the other. And to answer your question, it's funny because when Will said he cut the cord, my first thought was, did I cut? I think I did.
You said you did.
I think, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
If I said I did, then I did.
It's
But
chewy. It seemed chewy.
The point being that my memory of it is very hazy, because you know what I analogize it to. There's a great book called Into Thin Air written by a guy called John Krakauer about people who climb Everest, and it was about people that died climbing Everest, and he actually did get to the summit and climbed it. And people say to him, when he says he climbed Everest, it must be so amazing. Like the feeling of standing atop Everest must be like the most amazing feeling of triumph in the world. And he's like, no, it's really not, because you're so exhausted and you're so oxygen deprived because there's no oxygen up there. And you also have to worry about getting back down.
Right.
Yeah,
A lot of people die
yeah.
on the way back down. You're only there for a few moments. You don't have long to kind of go, hooray, we did it.
Gotta
And you're
save
so
some to
exhausted
swim back.
anyway that you don't really get a moment of triumph. You're just like, ugh.
You don't get up there and crack a cold one.
And that's kind of like
do a
what the
selfie?
moment was for me. I was just so, because I'm an anxious person, I'm a worrier. Like,
Especially
so
after 52 hours.
after 52 hours and no sleep, everyone's exhausted. When the baby finally came out, I remember it was really just a feeling of relief more than anything else. Like the baby's out.
Yeah.
Like, thank God.
Yeah.
Like, because it did not want to come out.
I mean, anytime
Out
you go
and
to an
healthy,
operating
yeah.
room,
And healthy.
like all I remember in the operating room from before the baby came out was peeking over the curtain, and
Yeah.
I didn't want to look at the incision, but all I remember seeing is a big like trays of knives, essentially.
Oh, yeah.
Knives and scissors,
Well-
big trays of like filled with dozens of those. I'm like, this is serious.
I remember them telling when you go into the room, because you have to scrub up just like a real doctor.
Yeah.
And they put the what do they call
Cap
them?
and gown.
The cap and gown on you.
It's like you're graduating.
The scrubs.
Yeah.
They put the scrubs on you, and they say once you're in there, just don't touch anything that's blue, because anything that's blue has been sterilized and you can't touch it. And you go in there and everything's blue.
And I got yelled at immediately because I forgot it immediately. Because like, where am I supposed to be? Where am I supposed to be?
Yeah.
And when we were preparing for the natural birth as well, I brought my DSLR. I brought like a 3D camera, 360 camera. I was like, I had the room all teched up.
Everybody wants that, a 360 camera.
And then once the C-section decision was happened, like all your plans go out the window. Then you're just
Yes.
the mercy of let the nurses tell me exactly where to be, where to stand. And thank goodness I had my phone in my pocket underneath the scrub so I could take some pictures of the baby and some video as the baby was coming out. Because I can't even imagine from like Danica's perspective, she can't see a thing.
No, because there's a
right?
shield
She's a
up.
Well, and
curtain.
she's doped up
She's
too.
doped up, just like in pain, freaking out.
And
you
it's
know.
not like she would have to sit up and lean forward.
Yeah,
You're not
she
gonna-
can't.
You're
Like, her
you're
muscles
doing
are
any of
not
that.
doing
yeah.
that.
She's being literally cut
Yeah.
open.
You're heavily anesthetized.
She says like a magician's assistant being cut in half except for
yeah,
real.
that's what it's like.
Right? And I can't even imagine. But like all your plans go out the window and you're just trusting the doctors. What I also found out is that like the doctors and the nurses in the hospital, they don't always agree with each other. And the nurses have their own way of doing things, and the doctors, they throw constant shade at each other. Like when we were waiting into labor and I was looking at the heartbeat monitor, that thing is amazing. We saved the papers because there are 2 lines. Like there's one for the contractions and one for the baby's heart rate. And this is like the only tangible thing you have of that experience, right? Like your baby, you could feel the
We have
the
the
kicks.
baby.
Yeah, you right. You have
Yeah.
the baby.
I mean,
but
the
like,
baby's
from
nice.
the labor
The paper's okay,
experience,
though,
the paper's kind of cool.
Yeah.
But the baby goes from this like bulge in the uterus, the
Yeah.
belly, to kicks. It's kind of still like a distance thing, but you have like when you see the heartbeat, you have this real this timeline of labor of what it's like.
Well, you guys bought that ultrasound thing that lets you hear the heartbeat. the
Yeah, we
heartbeat
bought one of
monitor.
those home ultrasound things.
And we borrowed it for a little bit toward the end there.
Yeah.
And it was one of those things that just like at the end of the day you put it on and you listen and you're like, oh man, this sounds good.
It's
You do it with
it's
the
still
stethoscope,
so
too.
it's the trippiest thing for me even now almost 2 weeks later, looking at the baby, looking at him and saying 2 weeks ago he was on the other side of this person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he was inside her.
Yeah.
And
Like an alien.
And he was almost as fully developed and could hear many of things he's hearing
He
now.
could have come out for the last month and a half and been
Yep.
okay.
Yep.
I remember I got in trouble for peeking over that curtain too many times. The doctor asked me to sit down because I was so
were
so
freaking
fast. I was so fast. I remember being on the one hand because I don't like viscera and gore and stuff
No.
like that. I'm quite squeamish. I have a low tolerance for that. But something about it being my wife and my baby, there's a switch that flips and you just kind of get on with it. Like you just deal with it.
Yeah.
And
Well, and you were also
so I was
yeah.
like right up close to all the blood and guts and gore, and there was kind of 2 halves of me. There was the half of me that was anxious and worried and nervous and empathizing with Leah and everything she was going through, and but mostly just anxious and nervous and like I really hope this works out okay, because until the baby's out and healthy, you just don't know.
Yeah.
But then there was another part of me that was just kind of intellectually fascinated by it all, and it kind of the 2 parts of me kind of bifurcated, and I remember thinking, this is amazing, like that we can do these things, like just things, and again for these doctors and nurses, they're doing several of these a day. This is completely routine, but for you, this is a once in a lifetime experience.
That was the other thing that was tough to reconcile because after spending 4 days at the hospital, you have like a rotation of nurses, and for you, it's the most important moment for me, most important moment of our lives, right? And everything the nurse says, we're hanging on by a thread.
Never
Just
paid
like-
attention to a human being
exactly.
more. Yeah.
And the day we're checked out, they didn't even say goodbye. It's it.
no, because they're worried about they've got the next
exactly.
ones
They got
coming.
the
They
next
see
ones.
like 5 new babies every day.
More than
Right?
that.
They just we're just another satisfied
Another
customer.
notch in the
Baby
belt.
number 716544328.
The thing that so if you're about to have a kid and you're listening to this, fast forward like 2 minutes because I'm gonna say stuff that's gonna horrify you. There were 2 things that I realized when we were driving like to the induced birth. I told you this the other day, but as I was driving, my wife was sitting next to me. Everything's fine. Like her blood pressure's a little bit up, but it wasn't dangerous up, just enough that they didn't want to keep the baby in anymore. I was thinking, oh, this is one of the like as a modern human that's not faced with the threat of predators or anything, like this is one of the only.
When you say predators, do you mean like animals
Tigers.
that can kill you? Oh, I thought you meant like the predator.
I mean, also the predator.
'Cause,
Yeah,
I mean that would be a real concern.
Like if we had predators or
that was
alien.
my first thought. Like, don't worry
Yeah.
about being chased by the predator.
If like
quiet place
if
up
it's
in here.
Danny Glover's L.A. and the predator's hanging out in the
I
city.
mean, it has been hot lately with all these fires.
That's true. Okay, so predator aside, like we aren't faced with the threat of death on a daily basis. I mean, we are in an abstract
you
way.
are if
like
you-
when you get in a car, when you cross the street,
every
whatever.
Every time you cross the street, yeah.
Yeah, but that's that's not something that's scheduled. That's a higher than normal
You could have a
chance
heart
of
attack
mortality.
out of
No,
nowhere.
yes. My point is, it's not often you get in the car and drive to something that might kill you. Like the act of getting in the car and driving might kill you, but like going and having a kid is a dangerous thing. Like it's
you're
it
not
is
actively courting danger.
yeah. And that was it. The other thing that somebody told me that was really helpful, one of our friends who is a dad said, look, because I asked him a question about the birth plan, and he was like, look, here's the deal with the birth plan. This is all shit you do to make you feel better going into it, to make you feel like you have some control over a situation where you have absolutely no control. And the moment you're in the room and the doctor or the nurse says, okay, we need to do this because the baby or your wife's health is in jeopardy, you're going to say, yes, fuck the birth plan. Here's what we're going to do. And that's the right thing to do every single time.
Yeah. Not
That's
be
what I
precious
didn't
about
like.
it.
On that 52 hour, I remember the one thing I do remember really well is that 52-hour conversation where all the doctors were kind of in the room with us, and we tried every pushing scenario that we could try, and nothing had worked. And I remember the tone in the room being not grave, but very serious.
Yeah.
Like they weren't kidding around anymore. They were like, you have a decision to make. And the baby's going to come out one way or another, but we got to figure this out. And like it wasn't fun or joyous at that point. It was just like, please let this baby come out alive, and my wife stay alive as well. Like everybody needs to live, please. That's after 52 hours and it's still not going right.
Well, you're at that point. Your
Especially if you're an anxious
awful.
person,
Yeah.
if you're a worrier like me, I was worried. I remember Leah wanted to have a home birth.
Yeah, I remember this conversation.
And we watched this movie called The Business of Being Born about how hospital birth is a racket. It's a scam.
Yeah.
And how there's a growing movement towards home birth because it's more natural and blah, blah, blah.
Do you still feel this way?
No.
Yeah.
I was always skeptical about it.
Yeah.
I mean, they have some compelling numbers about the number. They want you to have a C-section because there's more profit in it and blah, blah, blah. It sounded very cynical to me. Not the racket part, but the point of view of the documentarian seemed to be that they were convinced that it was a racket and it was a scam.
Yeah.
And they show you all these wonderful videos of perfect home births. Because they don't show you the one that goes wrong at 4 o'clock in the morning. They show you the ones that are all perfect and lovely and soft focus and stuff. And we had a doula and a midwife and all this kind of stuff. And I remember saying to them, like, what's the percentage of home births that have to end up transferring to the hospital and then like end up being a C-section? And they were like, oh, it's very, very rare.
Congratulations, Gary.
Very rare.
Huh.
You don't have to worry about that. Don't worry. And of course, it's exactly what happened to us.
And I don't feel like the doctor. I totally understand where that documentary is coming from in terms of doctors maybe pushing towards C-sections. I don't think it's for the money. It's for like the success rate. They know that
The C-section is basically going to work.
It's going to work.
Because they're literally cutting a hole in the belly and just yanking the baby out.
Well,
the variables are limited.
Yeah. If there's any kind of complication, if there's cords in a weird spot or the baby's upside down or whatever the problem you can't diagnose or solve from the outside, the C-section lets you see what the problem is and fix it.
Yeah,
And
it's
our
like,
cord was wrapped around the baby's neck twice.
If a door is locked and every key you have doesn't work, you can always just blow a hole in the door.
Yeah.
You're going to have to repair the
essentially-
door.
And you know that's going to work.
Yeah.
But I mean, the thing for us, because we had that conversation with you guys, because we were like my wife, we were 6 months behind you, so we were starting as you guys were
we were good
finishing.
guinea pigs for you guys.
Yeah, it was good.
We were a little bit ahead of
Your
schedule.
early access period was very helpful for us as we
Early
moved toward
access.
release. But no, we sat down and talked about that kind of stuff, and like it's compelling to not be in the sterile, terrifying hospital environment.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, you're like, oh, okay, the risk assessment here is that this is a safer.
See,
I'm
I'm the opposite. The sterile to me is not a bad thing. It means things are clean.
Oh no,
and no one likes being in a hospital, right? Because it generally means something's gone wrong in your life, like someone that you know is sick or injured.
Yeah,
right. So that's not good. And there are, like you even have that thing like the smell of hospitals. As soon as you associate it with a bad feeling because something's not right in your life, something bad has happened.
Yeah.
Except when you're having a baby, that's the one good reason you can go to a hospital.
Yep.
And so I felt more comfortable. I was really, really nervous the whole time that the home birth part of the process was happening. Once we got to the hospital, although it ended up then being still a really long time, and I was very nervous, I felt better because at least I knew that this is the best place to be. We're surrounded by doctors and experts and people that do this all the time.
I mean, it's like if you're having a panic attack and you think you're having a stroke or something, you go to the hospital. As soon as you're sitting in the waiting room at the emergency room, you feel better because at least if you're going to have the stroke, this is the place you want to do it, in the waiting room at the emergency room of the hospital.
I've literally, because I'm such a worrier, I've literally had that where I'm like at the hospital for no good reason, like, or for no particular reason, like I might be visiting someone. I remember thinking like, if I'm going to have a heart attack, might as well have it now.
Let's do it,
because
yeah.
I'm in the best place. Like they can get me to an emergency
As
room
long
in
as
2
you've
minutes.
pre-registered and have all your info written on the forms.
So, okay, so the baby's born. You guys, the other big difference, the other thing going for us in the hospital birth versus the home birth, the place that Norm and I had the kid, they give you a steak on the night before you check out.
You got a steak dinner.
Yeah, a big
I
steak
didn't get
dinner.
a fucking steak.
No,
I got
it's
a
because you went to the public
It was a
hospital. You went
filet
to the-
mignon
yeah.
steak dinner.
It
Now,
was very,
one of my
very
friends
fancy.
threw some shade on this and said it was not a good steak, and I didn't. I wouldn't.
Yeah, I
not
wouldn't expect a
expecting.
hospital steak to be great.
It's not. It's not like.
Look,
it's not House of Prime Rib,
Yeah, it's not your Morton's.
but it's not bad. It's better than airplane food and better than all the other food we had there. They put some real effort into it, and at the end
Oh,
of
bloody! I feel
4
totally ripped
days,
off now.
Yeah.
I didn't get a steak.
Yeah,
it was delightful. It felt like special
Norm,
treatment.
it's the most expensive steak dinner you've ever had.
Well,
Yeah.
I had to have a
It's like how
baby
that
to
free.
have
It's
it.
like how that free Jack and Coke at the blackjack table is actually the most expensive Jack and Coke you've
Here's
ever
a
had.
watered down
Because you blew
$300
$200
Jack
waiting
and
for it
Coke.
to show up.
It's a long story short. For Thanksgiving, I'm very thankful that everyone's
Oh yeah, so
happy
you really have something to be
and
thankful for this
healthy.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
That both Danica and the baby are healthy, and thankful for you guys for all your support that you and your families have
course.
given us and guiding us the entire way.
You guys,
So
you guys
how
did
are
a good
you?
job.
Like, how are you feeling like now today? Are you feeling sleep deprived? Are you feeling
Very sleep deprived.
Yeah.
Maybe that's a conversation for another time because we can do a whole other podcast about poop because I've seen things. I've
I
seen
was
things
a bit
I've
worried
never
we
heard
gotta put a
about.
because
content
when I
warning
would-
on that
'cause when I
one.
would torture you with stories of poops and placentas and stuff, you'd always like, yeah. But again, you just get on with it, don't you?
You do. You just have to do it because no one else is going to clean
No
it up.
one- who's gonna
at
do it?
4 a.m?
Yep.
Only person that's going to do it is you. So
Yeah.
when the baby,
And that baby poop, that meconium, that is some gross shit.
we're
as well.
past the meconium.
Right.
but we're-
I mean, it's like chocolate flavored gummies. It was just like I took a picture.
We're at the phase now where it's like you have a giant vat of French's mustard that hasn't been used in 3 weeks, and
Yeah,
so
that's-
all
yeah.
the watery part goes to the top.
Yeah, man,
and
that
someone
was a-
pushed,
Oh, it's all settled. Yeah.
and then someone's hit the dispenser real, and then I've seen the poop come right out of the butt while looking at the butt.
Yeah. You know if you don't shake
there's
a
the
ketchup
steak
or
dinner, Gary.
oh, I didn't get that.
Yeah,
That's
look at
bullshit.
that.
It looks quite good as
Did you get
well.
Perrier too?
Exact
Why didn't
same
I
thing.
get that?
You went to the wrong hospital.
We went to UCSF Benioff. It's one of the best children's hospitals in the country.
Did they give you a steak?
No.
Yeah, you got fucked, yo.
Well,
We all
I'm
got
gonna,
babies from
I'm
it.
gonna buy myself. You know what I'm gonna do? 6 years later, I'm gonna go to the store today. I'm gonna buy myself a steak. I'm gonna have that fucking steak.
There you go.
It's not going to be the same. You didn't earn it the hard way.
But I did
Hold
though.
on.
I'm just not getting the benefit until 6 years later.
There's a picture I've been waiting to show Norm. Oh, I don't know if I can show this one. It might be too much. Okay, never mind.
What was that you were gonna show?
I was going to show him the placenta picture, but it's a little revealing. Gina
Oh,
will
so
be
that was
upset
really.
with
I
me.
think I told you this 6 years ago because I showed you a picture of it and you were not thrilled.
I
with
was
He
it.
almost hit the
not happy.
floor.
Did you see the placenta?
No, I did not see the placenta.
Why not?
We didn't keep any of it. The only
the right
gross
answer.
thing that we kept was the umbilical cord that sticks out of the baby's belly button,
Yeah,
and that just fell off. So we have that in a little vial.
yeah.
So that's
It's like
only
a reliquary.
Yeah, exactly. That's
We had
the
the
only thing we've
I had the doctor come over after the baby had been cleaned up and everything and cut the cord, and then they rushed the baby off to the
nursery.
Leah gets to see it briefly, but
Right.
then it goes off. And then the doctors called me over to the table where the baby had been and said, "You should come over here and look at this."
No.
What's that? And they said, "Come and look. It's really interesting."
This is what happens when you peek over the curtain too much.
Yeah.
He knows that you're
Yeah.
into it.
They said, "Come look," and it was the placenta, and the placenta was bifurcated. It was basically two. You could see how there had been two placentas at one point, but they were kind of fused into one. And I said, "So what's that all about?" And they said, "Well, we think that at one point there might have been twins, but one didn't make it, or it got eaten by the other one."
do you think you got
And
the
what you're
evil
seeing,
one or the
what you're
good one?
seeing here is who knows? I don't know if I got the DeVito or the Schwarzenegger.
That's some real Hill House stuff.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's we think that what you're seeing here is the leftover of what might have been the second placenta. So that was I've got pictures of that as well. I think
You showed me. It was a pretty good
I think I
picture.
showed it to you to try and freak you out
it
6
did,
years
and
ago.
I did not want to see the placenta
He's
this time
blocked it
around, so
entirely.
I
but
may
you
have
sound
saw
like you've been doing good. You've been
okay. I mean,
up to the task.
every day is different, and again, I think we'll revisit this topic because it's only 2 weeks
How-
in.
How many times are you up in the night?
2.
2 times a night, but for
Yeah,
how
every
long?
3 hours.
For 4 hours and 6 hours.
Oh, how many times do I get up?
How many times do you have to get up in the night?
2 times, and
Okay.
about an hour each time.
Okay, that's not so bad.
That's not so bad.
How did the first bath go?
At home?
Yeah, Gina and I had the biggest fight of our marriage during the first bath.
I mean, very gently.
My advice,
Yeah.
as your attorney, is, and this goes for you at home too, is when you're going to do something like a first bath, converse about the strategy for that before you just jump into it. Like have a game plan that everybody agrees on. Because I jumped into the first bath in the same way that the nurse did right after our daughter was born.
Lots of scrubbing.
Very fast. Get her in, get her out. Because
Yeah.
it was cold. It was January, so it was
Yeah.
cold, drafty house. I was trying to get her in and out as fast as we could.
Yeah.
And that was not that we had a really core disagreement about the speed and intensity with which we should handle the bath.
The baby's like a Tamagotchi right now. There's only 4 states of being, right? There's sleeping, there's eating,
There's hungry.
Right, sleeping, hungry, pooping, or gas.
Yeah.
And those are the 4 signs. And so right now it's just deciphering, are you tired? If you're tired, good, we'll swaddle you and put you to sleep. Are you hungry? Do you have gas?
Yeah.
And
I didn't
or
even
have you
know that
just,
there are different cries that you can differentiate.
Well,
between.
we've learned that if the feet are moving, it's gas. If the hands are moving, arms are moving, hungry.
Yeah.
Right.
Your baby does a good rooting face too. Like
So
he knows. He's ready to
That's
go.
what we're figuring out right now. It's a lot of baby talk, and I'm sure there'll be more of it. But one of the things I did in that week leading up to baby being born while waiting is I played a fuck ton of Red Dead Redemption
It's the
2.
thing everybody should do right before the baby's born.
Oh my God.
If you want to do something really boring that's going to prepare you for days and days of not sleeping, Red Dead 2 will get you sleepy and ready to
And
go.
I haven't been able to talk to anyone about
Oh,
Red Dead
wow.
Redemption 2. I hear you both have been playing it.
A little bit.
Let's talk about Red Dead.
Okay.
It's amazing.
That's one opinion.
What? I love this game.
Okay. Why do you love the game, Norm?
Well, one, I went into the game loving the Westworld TV show.
Okay.
Right.
Is that your first entree to Westerns, really? Or did you... do you have
Western, like the
like the
genre
genre?
as a whole? No,
Yeah.
no. I've seen...
Well, I know you've seen them, but like, did anything grab you
I didn't play the
before?
first Red Dead.
That's probably
game.
best. It was a good game at the time. It has not aged well.
And I went into the game knowing that I wanted something like a Westworld experience where you were put into this kind of open world Western and you could engage and pick up like it's an adventure game, but very RPG light in terms of like meeting people and going on adventures.
There's a couple of bars.
And I'm getting that and more.
Are you role playing like you're a guy who went to Westworld to go on vacation?
No, because I would be killing everyone. And you don't have that amount of freedom.
You can kill everyone.
You can.
It would be hard work.
Yeah. The game is massive. And I just not a space landscape, which is gorgeous, playing it on the Xbox One X at 4K with HDR. It's one of the most beautiful games I've ever seen. And I know people complain about how slow it is, but I really like how slow it is.
I don't mind the speed.
The number
at
one
all.
tip I got from reading a review was turning off the minimap. And I just use the compass and listen to people tell me and try to remember where, because when I have the minimap on the bottom left hand corner, it's almost like GPS, and I'm looking at that more than I'm looking at the landscapes.
Well, even if you have the minimap off, you can always hit down or up on the D-pad or
Exactly,
something,
and then it
it'll pop
pops
back
up
for a
exactly.
second or two.
And the compass actually has your path, and it has tells you what direction you're supposed to move into your path.
Is that the minimal option, or is that
That's the very minimal.
That's the one that I do.
And so walking and it's taking in the landscape, listening to what people are saying, reading the road signs, and taking my time getting from. I actually want the world to be bigger. I want it to take longer because it still feels like a Rockstar game where everything's a little compressed because it's a game world. So when you're traveling from the furthest west city to the easternmost city, it's like only 15 minutes of horseback riding when you're supposed to be basically traveling across the United States at that point. I can't get enough of it.
So there have been moments that I feel like I'm playing a movie, but also I'm like watching a movie, but also I have agency as the main character, which are magic, like really, really good. There's a scene where you get drunk, you have to go to town and get really loaded.
Yep.
And some stuff happens, and like some of those missions are amazing. Some of the tutorial missions are really good, where you go out and somebody goes out and teaches you how to fish or how to hunt or whatever. And honestly, that whole opening sequence in the snow, the Hateful 8-bit, is astounding. It's really, really neat. For me, it's the parts where the game gets real rock starry, where like I had to make a bunch of changes to the controls to make the shooting work, to make the steering and shooting and stuff work.
Really?
Like if you turn off acceleration on the sticks, that helps a ton.
I mean,
it gets
the
a
auto
lot less
aim
floaty.
is so easy.
Yeah, but I'm talking about stuff like steering your horse.
Yeah, I run into trees a lot.
Yeah, like I killed a horse by running into a tree. That wasn't great. I jumped off of. I was bending over to like going to pick something up that was on the edge of a cliff, and I just ran off the cliff. Like I feel like that happens once or twice. It's maybe on me, but when it's consistently happening and I'm not touching anything, that seems like kind of bad design. And then the thing that makes me crazy is the narrow chutes on some of the story missions where like if you get 10 feet off the trail to the right or the left and it just fails you out and you have to start the whole damn thing over again
that's a very Rockstar
is bad.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
or
it's
if
gorgeous.
You get too far behind someone, and or if you, like there are main story missions. Right, there is this big story that takes a long time to play. If you just rush the story, you could do it in I don't know, like 20
People
hours.
said like
or
20 or
something.
30 hours. Yeah.
I'm finding myself enjoying the stranger encounters. I think there are over 100 random encounters that can happen, and these have
Is that like the guy laying under the horse or something like that on the side of the road?
Someone's guy on the side of the road, someone yelling at you, and I love this. Though that's the stuff that feels the most Westworld about it. When I'm just walking along the countryside and side quests pop up, and you hear someone yelling in the distance, or you see
"Hey, stranger!"
Exactly, or a plume of smoke. A plume of smoke is a great thing.
Yeah, or a light on the distance.
That's such a Firewatch thing. The plume of smoke.
And then you happen on a camp of bandits or a house of, and every one of those encounters is designed to have a full story, and you can approach them however you want, and they're inconsequential because they're just stranger missions.
I mean, the thing that they did that's really neat is they made a game that feels like a Bethesda game, like a Bethesda RPG, like your Fallout or your Skyrim or whatever, without having the massive game state. Like Bethesda games, the reason Bethesda games are often buggy is that they have essentially infinite game state, right? Like if somebody wants to, they can go collect one of the 300,000 wheels of cheese in Skyrim and pile them all up in one building, and the game has to know how to deal with that. That's really hard to do.
And in that sense, this is more like Westworld because I can go into a town and I can kill everyone in this room, but if I come back half an hour later, it could be repopulated because the loops will just recycle.
Well, I mean, that's one of the things. Like one of the first things I did was shoot one of the shopkeepers in the head just to see what would happen, and then I paid the bounty. And when I came back to town the next time, he was there, but he had an eye patch, a bandage over his eye where I'd popped him, and like that's magic. That's amazing.
There are things that like one bit of, it's not even really a spoiler. One thing in the first town you go to, there's like a
Valentine.
In Valentine, there's a shopkeeper. I think it's the doctor, but there's one shop if you just walk around because you're trying to see what buildings you can enter. And one of the things that always frustrated me about GTA is that when you have a city like LA or New York, the city looks great, but everything's facades, right? You can't enter anything. Now there are plenty of buildings you can't enter in Red Dead, but because it's the Wild West and because it's open world and because there are fewer buildings, there are many buildings that have interiors that you can enter, and you can actually see through windows. You can peek inside. So one of the buildings in the main town, the first town, you go look in the back of the window, and there's like a guy counting money, and there's like a locked door, and you realize the shopkeeper is running some illicit operation in the back. And then because you've spotted that, you can go in the front and you can hold them up and open the back door. You can rob them in the back. So like you uncover things like that. You pull back the veil between, and people have these backstories that you can uncover.
Yeah, they've done an amazing amount of world building, and I would say that as an exercise in world building, it's a tremendous achievement. I don't know if it's, and I'm not going to say if it's a good game or a bad game because that's again a very subjective thing. From my point of view, I have struggled to enjoy the game. I've struggled to enjoy it as a game. The sluggish pace of it, and again, that's a deliberate choice that they've made. They don't want to make an Assassin's Creed type game where you're running around and you can scale buildings, you can do whatever you want.
Where you have superpowers.
Yeah, where you basically have superpowers, or even GTA where there's a lot of running around and craziness. There's a lot of kind of, even the sprint is relatively slow, and when you're in the camp, it slows you down even more. And there is this, it feels like you're moving through molasses a lot of the time, and movement is slow. And everything in the game, I think it was either Klepik or someone at Vice at Waypoint who said that the best word to describe the game is friction. There's a lot of the game's constantly pushing back and giving you a lot of friction. Anything that you want to do, that you need to do, is hard. Even something like there's fast travel in the game, but you've even got to earn that. Like you've got to go to the train station and buy a ticket. It's not just I'm going to press X to fast travel. So everything, it makes you work for everything. And I think that if you're willing to meet the game on its own terms and play it that way, you can find real satisfaction because it really does feel like Westworld. It really does feel like you're living in that world. I had an encounter a couple of nights ago where I saw a campfire. I was just moseying down the trail one evening on my horse, and there was a little campfire off in the distance. I thought, I'll go see what that light's all about. Maybe there's something for me to do over there. Sometimes you go up to camps and they just tell you to fuck off.
Yeah, that's it.
Just get out of here. This is our camp. And you go, okay, there's nothing for me to do here, and or you could kill them, I suppose.
Yeah, you kill
and
them
rob
all.
them. But I just decided to leave them alone. And then there was a guy sitting there, and he's drunk. He says, come sit next to me, stranger. I'll tell you a story. And you sit down next to him, and he tells this, and you have a choice to. He says, give me some whiskey, and I'll tell you about my troubles. And you have a choice to either give him the whiskey. I gave him some. I had a bunch of whiskey, so I gave him some of my bourbon. And he goes on a whole story about how he used to do this work for the government, like clearing out Indian reservations, Indian camps. He talks about how then government boys, they pay well, but the money runs out, but the regrets remain, and all this kind of stuff. And it's just a sad story that he tells you. And then he passes out. So I robbed him. I looted.
You took your money back.
He fell asleep.
Did you get your booze back?
He just collapsed over on his chair. So I took his money and left. And that was just something that was just like an incidental moment that happened in the game. And when the game is doing that sort of thing, it feels really, really good.
Those are the best moments. Like far and
and those are the.
I enjoy those moments better than the actual missions.
So that's what I'm saying. Those random stranger encounters, those random encounters, those are the things that I remember the most. And your character has a journal. And all those encounters,
they all go in the journal.
All go in the journal.
I didn't know that.
And the order in which you do them. So
everything that happens in the game, he writes down in that journal.
It's your
So
experience.
he's writing his penny book.
Yeah,
and he draws
and confessing
out
to all his crimes if he ever gets caught. Unfortunately,
I mean, he's going to get hung either way.
He sketches too because he's a little bit of an artist.
Yeah, he draws
And
things.
sometimes I found myself just going through the journal and reliving what I've done in the game because there are things I've done that really feel like they were years ago.
Every
now.
few
It's just 'cause
encounters
you
I
haven't left the house
review
in 2
them.
weeks, Norm.
Every few encounters I review them via the journal.
And it's like memories. And the deliberateness of the game, the slow pacing, if it wasn't populated with those encounters, if there are enough of those, then it does feel very plotty.
When it's an experience, it's great. When it's a game, that's when I feel like it's lacking. Like the gunplay is not brilliant. The controls are not great.
Yeah.
And again, it's just so. I think part of the reason why I've struggled with it is because I've had this point of comparison all along. My wife has been playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and now she's on Origins. She's been playing the Assassin's Creed games, and there's similar games on a base level, I guess. You go around towns. There's side quests. You whistle for your horse. Your horse comes and gets you. But in Assassin's Creed, everything is pretty easy to do.
It's gamey.
It's gamey.
Yeah.
And it's all couched in the world of game systems. Like if you want to, for example, in Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I'll give you a couple examples. In Assassin's Creed Odyssey, you have bounty hunters that come after you, and that's true in Red Dead as well. To pay off your bounty, and you can pay off your bounty to get them off your back in both games. To pay off the bounty in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, you go to the map screen and hit X to pay off the bounty. To pay off the bounty in Red Dead, you have to ride to the nearest post office, probably through territory where you're wanted by bounty hunters, and then you pay it off once you get to the postmaster station. So that's like an extra chore that you've got to do. It's not just a button press.
Yeah.
When you whistle for your horse in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, it just immediately shows up and it's by your side. And when you whistle for your horse in Red Dead, as you know, maybe it's around somewhere, maybe it's fucked off somewhere, and it takes a while for it to mosey on back to you, and you got to go get it. There was a mission and they did this deliberately, and again, because they want you to experience the world of the game. I stole a stagecoach. I rode out to the middle of nowhere where I had to leave the stagecoach to stage it for a later train robbery I was going to do. And then, of course, I don't have my horse. I tried whistling for my horse. It says your horse is out of whistling range.
That's a Breath of the Wild thing. Breath of the Wild.
Well, so the horse is not coming.
Yep.
And it says return to the camp.
Yep.
I am miles from the camp.
Well, you're not
to
thinking
walk
of it
back
as a
there
GTA.
would take. Well,
You
so
just need to jack
what
a
I had to
horse.
do
You
was
had to steal a horse.
So I thought I'll get a horse.
Yeah.
So I wander up to some horses, and they scatter.
You could always rob someone. You can always steal
So that's what I had to
someone's
do. I had to stand in the road, wait for some poor bastard to come by on a horse, I shot him and took his horse.
your
Well, think about
bandana
that.
up.
In GTA, you would have no problem yanking someone out of their car and taking their car.
No, you don't even think twice about it.
Here, the fact that you're thinking about it, the fact that you feel for these NPCs going down the trail because you say hi to them every time.
Yeah.
That's immersion.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say I have a hard time playing GTA 5. You're Trevor Phillips. I have no problem murdering everybody in my path.
yeah, I mean,
right?
Trevor doesn't care
But
who
but
he
like
kills.
but even like Michael's a shitbag. I can't remember the kid's name, but the kid was the good guy in GTA
Right.
5. Like I still didn't have any compunction about murdering people with reckless abandon in that game because there's a lot of them. With this one, they all feel much more realized.
Yeah, I didn't want to shoot someone, but I
That's
needed
right.
a horse.
Yeah.
Like, sorry, buddy.
This is another
I need your
example.
horse.
Well, you can lasso him off, just drag him behind the
I
horse.
could've done that and
You still lose
hog-tied him.
honor.
Yeah.
But this is another example where Rockstar doesn't do a great job telling you what you can or can't do because
That's
I
the
didn't
point.
know that sometimes if you have no horse, you could stand on the edge of the road and you could kind of
Hitchhike?
You can hitchhike and get a stagecoach to take you to the nearest town.
Oh, that's nice.
But they don't tell you that because there's no tutorial because
You know,
that's how Rockstar designs
Though
their games.
if you're standing there on the side of the road and a stagecoach come by, you could just take a stagecoach and then you have a stagecoach.
It's-
A lot of
it's-
the somebody I pointed this out on Twitter and I thought it was a good distinction. They said Rockstar tells you how to play the game, or they tell you the controls, but they don't teach you the controls.
They show you how you can play the game.
and you're discovering. I mean, it's one of those games that like many hours in, you're still doing tutorials because there's so much for the
Yeah.
game to show you. Like we
the
did.
end of the second chapter, there's still tutorials. Then
I mean, the
second
third chapter, and we did.
Yeah.
In the third chapter, you learn how to fish on a boat.
Oh wow, I haven't done that yet.
Oh yeah, you'll go out. Hosea and Dutch will take you out on a fishing trip on a boat.
So some of my favorite moments are like the poker. I played poker for probably 2 hours the other day, and the poker game,
I like it.
like the poker game, unlike most video game poker games, it's actually a good poker engine. Like the NPCs play smart. They don't bluff like with reckless abandon.
Well,
for the most part, they have tells that
Yes,
aren't super
that's
obvious.
the thing, because they have avatars, and it's better than any just iOS, phone poker game because there are a little bit of stakes.
Yeah.
It's $2 out of your whatever your cash is, but
$7.
you feel like you can actually lose money, you can gain money, and you feel like if you clear out a table, you've done something,
Yeah.
even though it took 4 hours.
Yeah.
And you can play
Did
like
you play the game with the knife and the
five finger
fingers?
fillet.
Yeah. I haven't done that one yet.
Yeah,
Yes.
and I played some dominoes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they're fun.
the hunting stuff, like the hunting big game, those little side missions are really tense and compelling because you're going to die, you're going to lose something. It's a pain in the butt.
It's interesting. It is when I'm doing the missions that the game feels the most gamey and the most Rockstar. It's like, okay, chase this guy's running away. You got to chase him. Now now I've caught him. Now I've got to bring him back to camp. And it just feels very much like these chores you've got to do.
Mm-hmm.
It's when you decide. And I used to do this I remember I used to just do yoga in GTA. And I would just, it wasn't the fact that I enjoyed doing the yoga. It was the fact that the game let me do anything I wanted.
Right.
And I can just do whatever I want. So if you decide today, I'm not going to do this mission will wait for me. It's not going anywhere. The story's not going to progress without me. Today, in today's play session, instead of doing a mission, I'm going to go hunting or I'm going to go fishing or I'm just going to go just wander around looking for side quests.
I mean, honestly, if the part of a vast majority of my problem with the game, the challenge that I have with the game is that it uses the GTA control scheme, which it feels arbitrary and incoherent in this 2018 when we have a million really, really tight control schemes and like we know what a tight game control feels like, and we don't.
Yeah, like
this game
Spider-Man.
doesn't have that. Yeah,
that's a game that controls well.
yeah. Like the camera's responsive, the character stops on it. I mean, he is Spider-Man, so he's fast, but
Yeah.
like this doesn't feel. It doesn't. When I was playing Spider-Man and I'm fighting Tombstone and I'm swinging around the rafters and I'm like, I feel like Spider-Man, and it feels so good to swing around and have him yell at me and be like, come down from there, I need to punch you, and then you come down and you punch him a couple times in the back and swing away again. You feel like Spider-Man in a way that video games are doing something amazing.
Well, I feel like a degenerate in the West.
Well, I mean,
turn of the
look,
century.
You are a degenerate in the West.
I think
but I don't feel like I'm really good at shooting. Like I feel like if you've been a outlaw gang for 20 years, you should be fucking good at shooting people.
I'm pretty good at shooting people.
Okay, yes, but you
Auto
use
aim,
auto aim and all that bullshit. So like I just feel like it's not. It's.
I do think that
soft.
it suffered going from, because Spider-Man was the last game that I played all the way through the completion. I played it for many hours.
Yep.
And then I didn't play anything else for a bit. And then I played Red Dead.
Yep.
And I think it suffered coming off the back of Spider-Man because they really are very, very different games. Spider-Man is so responsive and so fast.
And I got
And so
bored.
easy to get into and play. And Red Dead is none of those things.
Yeah.
And they're both open world games to some extent. And Spider-Man's Manhattan is massive, but I got bored because of how fast I could move around. And
I just took the train after a while.
and it didn't become any interesting going from Midtown up to the Bronx. Like none of that felt interesting. In Red Dead, when I go from the city that I haven't been in, a week of play, Valentine or Strawberry, to a new town, it really feels like I'm trekking back and going back to an old place. Like I'm making more memories in this game than I did in Spider-Man.
I mean, I feel like Spider-Man, they tried to fill those voids by adding a bunch of collectibles and stuff to do along the way.
Yeah.
Like the Black Hat missions and the fighting the checkpoints and all that stuff.
Taking photos.
Like all that stuff is the solution to that problem. I agree it's not as compelling a solution as actually making the world really interesting.
Norm, how far into the game are you?
I'm in chapter 4. So
Okay.
I'm in,
I just started chapter 3. So I
chapter
just showed
3 's
up in Rhodes,
really
which is
good.
the new town.
You'll love it.
Yeah.
That one, the story missions are really good.
Okay.
A lot of personality. And
I like Sadie. Sadie started to come to the fore now.
I think this is the aspect of the game that's maybe, I feel like still a little underdeveloped. There are 22 other people in your camp that you travel with, and they're each supposed to over time reveal their personalities. And yes, I know Lenny, I know Hosea, and I know Dutch, of course. But like when they were promoting this game, and Javier, when they were promoting this game, they had these like big these character cards telling you all the personalities of these people you'd be living with because they're your family, and it really takes a long time before you really start getting some affinity for some of the characters you don't interact with a lot.
Well, but you should like you've been living with these people for 20 years. Some of them you should know them, and it shouldn't
Well, I mean,
in
you
the
as a
world
player.
in the
I'm saying you as a player.
but
like I don't care about Mrs. Grimshaw in the first 2 chapters, 3 chapters of the game. It's not until chapter 4 when stuff happens. So everyone has their day, and that's something. Hopefully, by the end of the game, I'll really feel a connection to all these characters.
Well, so the parallel for me on that is I don't know if you've watched Orange Is the New Black, but in Orange Is the New Black, each of the episodes and the larger seasons kind of has an arc around one of the characters, and each of the episodes usually reveals some backstory about.
It's like Lost.
Yeah, why this person is here and what happened to them previously and all that. And I feel like each of the missions that you go on with one of those people gives you those hints, but with 20 of them, it takes a while.
Yeah. I could talk about Red Dead for days and days. It's what I've been playing when the baby goes to bed at night.
Yeah, that's
and
you should
eating
go
into
to
my
sleep,
sleep. I should probably go to
You
sleep.
should go to sleep.
Yeah, you should really be catching up on your sleep.
I want to go back.
Your job now is to keep your wife and your child alive. That's all you have to do. Red Dead can wait. It'll still be there. You can murder people on your own time later.
All right. I want to, before we move on to the next segment, we're going to talk about some pop culture news. I want to thank the other sponsor that makes this episode possible, and that's Lutron's Caseta Smart Lighting System. Caseta by Lutron takes your smart speaker, like your Alexa, your Google Home, your Apple HomePod, and makes it more powerful by letting you control lights with your voice. Caseta is the most connected smart lighting brand, and it works with more smart home devices than any other smart lighting brand, letting you pair lights with other things like security devices, thermostats, and music systems like Nest, Sonos, and more. And because it's from Lutron, you can rest easy knowing it'll work. We're raising a baby right now. We have no hands free. We got 2 hands holding the baby's legs, 2 hands wiping the diapers. We want to use our voice to turn on and off the lights when it's 4 a.m. So this is a system that lets us do that. So get smart lighting the smart way with Caseta by Lutron. Search for Caseta, that's Caseta, or check out lutron.com to learn more. Caseta by Lutron, welcome your home, your peace of mind. All right, let's talk about some pop culture. I want to jump through this
Is there
relatively
no tech
quickly.
news this week?
We'll get to tech news.
Oh, that's
tech news
coming
is
up?
after
Okay.
pop culture.
I didn't realize.
Clearly don't listen to this podcast much.
Well,
Jay.
I mean, I when I was on it, it used to be all about tech. Now it's about babies and video games and popular culture.
Turns out that's the stuff that excites us more
Podcast.
these days.
Okay.
Topical podcast. Nobody
Yeah.
wants
Okay.
your true crime bullshit.
So over this past weekend, Disney and Disneyland released a first behind-the-scenes video of their upcoming Star Wars land. I know they're not calling that Galaxy's Edge. Is that what it's called? That they're building
Outer
out,
Rim?
something like that.
Yeah.
They're building in Disneyland parks right now, and it shows a lot of this stuff under construction, a lot of time lapses of walkers being built, and it's all set to the new score that John Williams made for this land. Have you guys seen the video?
No.
Oh, it looks so good. I know you guys are both Disneyland aficionados. You guys,
I've never been.
what?
Never been to Disneyland.
Wow.
Yeah.
Do you plan on going? You have
I'll
no
take
interest.
my kid at some point.
Will your kid like?
I'm in
Does
the
she
prime
know
time. I should be
about
taking-
Disneyland?
Oh, look, man. If you let them watch any, Here's a pro tip from somebody who made the wrong choice like 4 years ago.
Yep.
Don't put the Disney app on your TV. Don't put it on an iPad. Don't let them anywhere near it.
Because a lot of ads for Disneyland come
they
holidays.
don't do ads for toys or anything usually, but they ads for Disneyland. Hey, look, you can. Yeah,
well, it's $150 a person a day. They can make a lot of money.
Yeah.
We took ours to Disneyland and she loved it. You should definitely do it.
Yeah, we should.
I'm really curious. Is this new Star Wars themed land going to be for kids, or is it more for you and me?
Yeah, it's for us.
I think it's for
kids
us.
don't like Star Wars.
Yeah, well, kids like Star, but the things they like about Star Wars are maybe more the droids and the Jar Jars
of the kids, like of the 5-year-olds that I know, like Minecraft, Fortnite,
Fortnite Land.
Fortnite Land,
That
people
would be
go to.
That would be
it's
insane.
At PAX every year.
That's like E3 next year, right?
Yeah, the all the princess stuff, obviously. Your PJ Masks, very popular with the kids these days. The Incredibles, very popular with the kids.
Yep.
None of
It's
them.
going to be a
Nobody
good
dresses up
couple
as
of
Luke
years after
Skywalker.
they open this thing before I go.
Because the line's gonna be crazy.
Yeah, it's going to be suffocatingly miserable when they first open it.
I mean, it's just like when they opened Cars Land, a whole land about one.
Do you remember when
movie.
they opened Harry Potter Land?
Yeah.
Oh,
The
at
Wizarding
Universal.
World.
Universal.
Yeah.
And it was like a mosh pit. It was
It's still rough.
yeah.
Well, I'm really curious because this video doesn't reveal any of the interesting new Imagineering technologies that they've built in. We've heard rumblings of all the new weird droid stuff.
Yeah, the autonomous droids.
And how they're going to get people through Millennium Falcon ride, right? How are you going to put thousands of people through this
I assume it's
every
like
hour?
the Swiss Family Robinson Treehouse, since that's what they got rid of to put in there.
No, it's going to be a ride.
Oh, really?
It's going to be like Star Tours, but in the Falcon. How are they going to do that?
Everybody gets their own cockpit?
They'll shove
God, that would
20
be so
people
good.
in the cockpit of the Falcon.
What if they do it like the old Epcot rides, where they have like the four seats in the Falcon cockpit?
I don't know.
Like you
It'll
walk
it'll
through the mock-up
probably
of the
be
Falcon, you get up
more
into the
than
neck,
that seat.
and yeah, okay.
Yeah, really looking forward to that. But in addition to that, Disney announced Disney Plus. That's the name of their new subscription service that's coming out next
How
year.
much is it going to cost?
Less than Netflix.
How
So
much
I
does
think what Bob
Netflix cost? Like $12?
Does anyone? Do you know how much Netflix costs?
No, it used to be
Well, it
$7.99.
depends on the tier.
Yeah, if you have the 4K, I think it's like
I
$12.
think it's about 12 for
Yeah.
4K.
Yeah, and I know Netflix is planning to experiment in a mobile-only tier. Who uses mobile-only Netflix?
Kids.
Is that for the
youth,
kids?
Gen Z.
$5 or $7 just for
Yeah.
a mobile only. If you want to, that's not a way to watch. If they're spending hundreds of millions on blockbuster movies like Outlaw King and Ballad of Buster Scruggs, like that's watch on your phone.
Do you remember the old man complaint? Oh man, why would anybody ever watch video on the internet? The quality is really bad. YouTube sucks. The
Well, I guess
quality is bad. And then
if you have a new
where do
iPad
you watch
Pro,
video on the
yeah.
YouTube?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why you'll
Hi,
never see
YouTube.
Chris Nolan sign up for a Netflix exclusive deal
Look,
because he
Chris
wants people to
Nolan-
watch movies in
Yeah,
theaters.
he wants film.
But Disney Plus coming out next year. I know they've confirmed Loki, a TV show for Loki with Tom Hiddleston.
Ooh.
And on the Star Wars side, they have
There's a Winter Soldier Falcon show.
that's
as
right.
well.
That's right.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
gonna be a buddy thing. So and
Is Ant-Man going to show up in there? I feel like that's a good
no,
interaction
I don't think
with
they can
Falcon
get
and
Paul Rudd.
Ant-Man.
For Star Wars, they have The Mandalorian. First,
Okay.
they announced casting for Mandalorian.
So
lead
this
actor.
is after they killed the Boba Fett movie.
Yes. Well, probably was in. This is the Jon Favreau thing that's been in development since,
Okay, before.
or concurrently. I don't know.
Is this set in real time? Is this a prequel? Is this old? Like Old Republic? Do we know anything about it? Because like
It's
I
just
think it's set
not.
after.
Rebels?
I think it's set after Return of the Jedi.
Okay. I thought so. So in the old
I don't
canon that
remember.
no
I've
longer
not been
counts.
following it.
That no longer counts. I think the Mandalorians were mostly wiped out, right? At some point in the past, there's some sort of big war between like Old Republic and like the KOTOR era and the
Well, KOTOR era, you're going back thousands of years.
yeah. Like because the Mandalores there was a lot of Mandalore business in the.
If you
KOTOR games.
if you ever watch Clone Wars or Star Wars Rebels, there's a lot of Mandalorian storylines.
Okay.
You can learn a lot of Mandalore.
Ooh,
You like that?
I would have gone with Mandalore lore.
Nice.
Mandalore lore.
Pedro Pascal, who is in Game of Thrones, and he was also in the Kingsman sequel. He's going to play the Mandalorian. I think it's a good
Who was
good
he
choice.
in the Kingsman sequel?
He was the guy with the whip. He was the
okay.
one
Like
who,
one of
the one that wasn't Channing
I
Tatum.
just saw
Yeah.
him in a commercial for socks, and he
Oh.
was doing like a Fred Astaire dance routine. It was pretty good.
That's pretty good. I like
Yeah.
somebody who can dance.
Yeah, got good variety.
And they also, I think, I don't know if this is officially announced, but it's on the IMDb page. Gina Carano, who is, she was in.
Oh, she was in Haywire, right?
Yes,
Soderbergh.
she was
Oh, okay.
Haywire, and she was in the Fast
Yeah.
Six. I want to say Fast Six. She was the one
bad guy.
She was the one who ended up being bad. It was the one with the airplane. The 40-mile long runway. She's the MMA fighter.
Oh, right. Okay,
that was American Gladiator.
Yeah.
And then is now a TV star, movie star.
So hold on, but they're doing the Cassian Star Wars.
That's
show
the other
too,
news. So
right?
they also announced that there will be a Cassian Andor series.
That's exciting. So presumably it's going to be a prequel to Rogue One.
Well, yeah. I mean, you couldn't really do anything afterwards.
I mean,
could
they
you?
could, but it would maybe be a little one note.
What do you think, Gary? What do you think it should be in a Cassian Andor story?
I've got no idea. I honestly have no thoughts on the matter. I don't. It's here's the thing. I spent 5 years working inside the Star Wars universe. I worked on Rogue One. I worked on Star Wars Rebels. I worked on some of the books, and I worked on Last Jedi comic adaptation. So I've done a lot of.
That's all out now, right?
That's all out now.
Yeah, it was really good. I enjoyed it.
Are there character Bibles for these characters going into those, or even for a show like Rebels, right?
You not necessarily written down, but like writers know, who the characters are.
Mm-hmm.
When we would sit in the Rebels writers room and we'd do a story on like Saw Gerrera or whatever, we would know who that character was because he'd already been established in Rogue One or some of the Mandalorian characters.
But enough left open-ended so that a lot of the stuff could be filled in for presumably things like this.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm excited about it. As someone who worked on Rogue One, I thought Cassian was a cool character, so I'm interested to see what they do with him. I hope that K2 is in there as well. It's an opportunity for them to show how the two of them came together. Some of that has been told, I believe, in comic books and things like that. Whether or not they'll differentiate from that, I don't know.
That's a really interesting thing.
But it's the idea of a show about rebel spies is perfectly tailored for television, right?
Well,
you can do different missions each week and so forth. I have no idea. Like I said, I guess my point is this: having worked. My time in Star Wars is, as far as I know, unless they call me for something else at some point down the road, is done. Like I'm back to being a consumer. And the last projects that I had any kind of inside track on, you've seen them all. So Episode 9, Mandalorian, Cassian Andor and things like that. I know little teeny tiny bits and pieces, but I'm really no more educated, or I don't have any more of an inside track than the next person. I'm back to being just a consumer again. So I'm excited to see it. I'll definitely subscribe to Disney Plus.
Yep.
I'm going to be interested to see on the wider level what Disney Plus is. I hope it's not just all this new stuff. I really hope that they put all the Disney Vault in there as well.
God, and
I want, Bed Knobs and Broomsticks and Steamboat Willie and every short they ever made.
Is Bed Knobs and Broomsticks Disney? I don't think it is.
Yes,
yeah, it is.
Is it?
Yeah,
Yes.
Dark Age Disney. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want like the '90s cartoons too. I want like Darkwing Duck.
Yeah, I will.
Disney Afternoon.
DuckTales and I will. I would
Rescue
pay
Rangers.
if they wanted to do different tiers. I would pay whatever the top tier is to have access to like the full Disney Vault.
See,
Yeah.
I think they're going to do it like Netflix because they know that people will subscribe to services even if you don't have everything on demand all at once. They'll do seasonal releases and they'll.
Well, they don't have Netflix has an excuse.
The thing to think about is that Disney has a vast library of content. When you think about all their live action kid stuff,
Everything that's been on ABC that ABC owns.
yeah.
Full House,
Wow.
presumably.
all of Family Matters.
Yeah. That stuff you never know who owns it because it could have been the production company.
But
probably
even
owns
just
it,
the stuff that's under the Disney brand, like the Disney Family Channel,
Yeah.
and
I don't think
all the
that's
Mickey
gonna be
Mouse
on the
Club.
service that much.
iCarly and
I think it'll be a
Hannah
rollout.
Montana and every one of those shows, they can put the entire run of those shows on Disney
They
Plus.
could.
And they should.
Not initially. I think it's going to be a rollout. I think they're going to do their market research and know that enough people will subscribe in the first wave for these new shows, maybe for all the Marvel movies, maybe for all the Pixar movies, and then they can say, coming 2019, now we've processed it all for Disney Plus. Now you have all your Hannah Montanas and get another wave of subscribers.
Honestly, the thing that would make me I'm going to sign up regardless because I have a kid, but I feel like the thing that I would like to have more than anything else is the short, like all the shorts. Because all the Mickey Mouse shorts, all the Donald Duck shorts, all the Chip and Dale shorts, all the Pluto shorts, you can't get them. Like they're not available to watch.
Yep. And even stuff that was more episodic, like more game show stuff. Like Nickelodeon launched theirs, and I was trying to find old Legends of the Hidden Temple on YouTube. None of it's there because it's only on this Nickelodeon service. And Jeopardy was just put on Netflix, and people are binging the hell out of that.
I think they'll do different tiers, and I think that you'll get obviously at your main tier, you'll get your Mandalorian and you'll get your Winter Soldier show and all of the kind of banner pieces of content. But I would pay an extra tier to get full access to The Vault and Chippendale Rescue Rangers and Hannah Montana and
and that's how they'll get you.
X-Men the animated series.
Yeah, and
that was Fox.
Mickey Mouse Clubhouse
Not
and
anymore.
everything they've ever done.
I don't think they have the right. That's 20th Century still has the rights to that stuff. I don't think
know.
though.
20th Century Fox is under the Disney umbrella now.
Well, that's how they'll get you, because if you'll pay that extra tier, if you'll pay an extra $5, you'll binge that stuff in the first couple months, but you'll probably not cancel. And you'll probably pay, you'll over the lifetime of your Disney Plus subscription, you'll pay 50% more than you would have paid.
But
otherwise.
Will's right as well for like the real Disney collectors, like the D23 diehards, like those
Yeah.
crazy motherfuckers that you see them at Disneyland and they're covered with all the pins and everything, and they know every piece of Disney trivia, and they've been to see every Disney movie 50 times.
Respectable people.
They are, I mean, fine people, some very
At
fine
Gary
people.
Whitta on Twitter if you have comments.
Those are the people that, I mean, they've already collected them as well. But like a lot of the things you're talking about, you only get them at Disneyland, like those kind of metal, those old collector's tins of the old black and white shorts and things like that, and things that are very, very hard to find. They're not on YouTube. Disney keeps them in their quote-unquote vault.
They're not on Netflix. You can't buy DVD. You can't buy a DVD or Blu-ray collection of a lot of that stuff. Like you can get.
But this is the perfect opportunity for them to make that available at some kind of premium tier. Yeah. I think the collector diehards, the D23 crowd, would be totally into that.
Look, the other way to look at this is that right now, like we have YouTube, so we can get Disney Now, right? We have Hulu TV,
YouTube
so we can get
right.
so we can get Disney Now.
Do you remember Wonderful World of Disney? Did they have that?
Yeah,
here?
yeah, that was great.
Used to be on,
You
like,
mean
a
the
Sunday
Friday
afternoon.
night or
It was Saturday night?
like a Michael Eisner hosted,
Well, it was Walt Disney originally.
Disney hosted collection of entertainment.
Oh yeah, brilliant.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was a science fiction thing on when I was a kid that they did a generation ship that was going to a nearby star as an arc situation, and they crewed it with like one adult and a bunch of teenagers. It was an amazing thing. I don't remember what it was called.
That
I have
sounds
no idea.
nightmarish for the adult.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure it was awful with a bunch of hormonal teens, but if you guys know what that's called, I'd love to know. It was like post Battlestar, probably.
So it sounds like we're all on board to subscribe to Disney Plus,
Look,
and
I
that goes
need
back to
another-
the question of what's your limit? How many of these services we subscribe to? Is there a hard number, or is it a dollar amount?
I was thinking about this the other day. How many different? Because if you look at my Apple TV, that has them all laid out in a gallery. So let's think about it. So I subscribe to Netflix.
Yep.
Okay, same.
Amazon Prime, although that's part of a broader.
Yeah,
Let's not
that
count
doesn't
that.
count.
That's Amazon's Trojan horse and then getting you to pay for it, amortizing it within Prime.
Yeah,
Let's
we
say for the
were
sake
paying
of-
for Prime even before they added the video.
I know,
element.
and now they'll
but
raise the
nevertheless,
price.
it's a service I pay for.
Sure, okay.
Netflix, Amazon Prime, Hulu, HBO Now, BritBox,
Okay.
Shudder.
What's Shudder?
Shudder is
Horror.
all horror.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
It's fantastic.
okay.
$4.99 a month for all the horror you could imagine.
Wow.
That's more than I need.
Hallmark movies now.
Oh my god.
Because as you know, I've got to have my Hallmark Christmas movies.
Yeah.
What about WWE?
No, I don't pay for WWE.
Okay. Okay.
And I'll pay for this Criterion channel when that shows up.
Did you pay for Filmstruck?
In a manner of speaking.
What? I don't understand what that means.
I have
Gary.
access
Lucid.
to Filmstruck.
Okay.
I'm part of the problem.
Okay.
I love Filmstruck. Filmstruck is great.
So I do Netflix. We have Hulu and Hulu TV, so that's where our cable channels come from.
Yeah.
And I think we pay for HBO Now.
Here, let me rephrase the
and
question.
CBS.
What would you cut first? Do you
CBS.
have a hierarchy of things?
CBS.
All Access. That's what
CBS
you would
All
cut.
Access goes immediately.
Wow.
Wow, but when that Picard show
That's
shows
right.
up.
It'll probably I'll buy it on iTunes.
So you have the discipline to subscribe for 3 months while new show's out and then cancel.
This is the beautiful thing about subscribing through iTunes instead of through a web interface. Is if you subscribe through iTunes or Google Play, you just mash the button that says "Don't renew this," and it works itself out. You don't have to talk to anybody, you have to call anybody or any bullshit like that.
And I shouldn't forget, because it's actually the most expensive one, YouTube TV.
Yeah, YouTube
Yeah.
TV.
Because that's how I get my TV now. Since I cut the cable, that's how I get my TV.
Yeah.
I have a hierarchy, and I think Amazon's on the bottom of the list, but I don't think I can cancel that.
You can't
without
cancel Amazon because
Prime.
of the Prime. Yeah, because there's gonna be a moment where you're gonna be like, shit, we only have 3 diapers.
Are you saying
left.
that's the one that you kind of spend the least time watching?
Yeah. So like, if we're paying for half a dozen of these services, and Disney Plus comes along, we're probably just going to add it on. At some point, we're going to reach that point where you're paying whatever you're paying Comcast. So you gotta rank them.
So
it's what you use the most.
So
What would you do if you could only have one? Netflix?
I
think
would
it would be
switch
YouTube TV.
probably.
YouTube TV. Well, I don't know if that even counts.
You
Yeah,
Norm,
it does. It's another a la
I
carte.
suppose it does.
the thing that Amazon does really well is kid stuff. They have like Daniel Tiger and Sesame Street,
Yeah.
a bunch of that stuff.
My kid's really into Pete the Cat at the moment.
Yeah, Pete the Cat's good.
Yeah.
I like Pete the Cat. Fancy Nancy, pretty good too.
Okay. And there's another one called Dot that she really likes.
We haven't watched that.
Dot.
Yeah, but Amazon Prime's
Hilda on
good for
Netflix is
kids.
the best.
Hilda is my daughter bounced on that, but I like
really?
it a lot. I think it's really good.
I loved it.
Yeah.
So you alluded to this earlier, but everyone's very sad that Filmstruck's going away. There's a lot of
People like
petitions and a lot of support
cineasts.
from filmmakers even who wanted to make sure that Filmstruck. I think they had 100,000 subscribers, if that, but it wasn't sustainable from their perspective. But Criterion Channel, which was a partner
Yeah.
to Filmstruck,
Yeah, because if you had Filmstruck, you also had access to the Criterion Collection.
Which used to be on Hulu, just to be clear.
It used to be on Hulu.
Yeah.
Criterion Channel is going to launch their own streaming service in 2019, and this will be in partnership with Warner Media. So hopefully we'll have, if not all of, but much of, at least all the
they
Criterion.
don't have The Rock
what
and
makes them
Armageddon,
think
I
that
don't
that
want
will be
anything.
successful if Filmstruck wasn't? Because it's the same thing, isn't it?
I think that the Filmstruck was spending a lot of extra money on additional programming that they thought
It was very
that,
one of the things I liked about Filmstruck is it's very curated. Like it was like
Look.
filmmaker of the month. Like it's John Wayne week, so here's a bunch of John Wayne movies, and they had
Well,
a
they're
bunch
gonna
of
have that.
behind the scenes content.
Criterion did do that thing where even though they had the rights to this huge library of movies, they would window them. You would have a certain, certain months, certain movies would be on Filmstruck, and then certain months they would fade away. So you'd have to tune in regularly to get the thematic programming. And I think that's one of the ways that they're going to get around having to pay a lot of money for the licensing is doing these windows.
Which makes sense.
Which makes sense, and I'm happy to pay for it. If it's costs the same amount as Filmstruck, I'd subscribe to it.
I want Ryan Johnson and Karina Longworth just to do a hey, here's what you should watch this week. Just that's all I need. A channel. It's one movie a week, and it's just like here's the thing you should watch. This is going to teach you about film history, and you're going to learn some new shit. Because the list of movies that like Ryan Johnson had folks watch at Lucasfilm before episode 8, I guess.
Yeah, I remember watching them.
Is astounding. And is in
Yeah, I was introduced through that by my favorite one of that was 12 O'Clock High.
That's
Which-
the
Gregory
Peck and the bomber, right?
About the World War II bombers.
Yeah,
and
it's astounding.
it's on Netflix and it's absolutely fantastic. One of
Yeah.
the best war movies I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's like
And for some reason I'd never seen it, and I was blown away by it.
I know we don't count
Gregory
YouTube
Peck though.
as part of
Oh,
the subscription
there's-
service.
There's no one better.
Yeah,
But YouTube did have their own, pay to watch stuff on YouTube, right?
Really?
The YouTube Red was what they called it.
what really?
And now YouTube is starting to roll out some movies, ad-based movies, because a lot of people just want to watch movies on YouTube. YouTube is what they have on their phones,
You're in the
or the
ecosystem.
they're in the ecosystem.
You get
They
some
like their
Logan
account.
Paul.
They
you can get
like
a
to
great made for YouTube
subscribe
movie.
and like. And YouTube is starting to roll out. I think it's starting with the Terminator. You can watch full-length movies on YouTube with ad breaks
Great.
on just
Interesting.
YouTube.com
That's terrific.
without any monthly cost.
It's just like TV, but now it's on the internet.
Yeah, they quietly rolled it out last month, but they're gonna see if there'll be advertisers to sponsor films. So if like Johnson & Johnson wants to sponsor
3
Look,
Men and a Baby.
Look Who's Talking,
Oh, good.
you know,
Okay.
It's like
Right?
back to the 50s.
then they can sponsor for everyone who wants to stream that
Wow.
and get all Johnson & Johnson ads. It's a smart way for them to make money, and I know a lot of people on YouTube don't want to do subscriptions, so they can just watch the ads.
I've subscribed to YouTube Red for a month about 2 years ago whenever they rolled it out. And now every time I log into YouTube, it basically is like, hey, man, you're watching an ad right now, but you didn't have to watch one. You could watch this. You pay us some money, and we'll give you 3 months free. You can try it. I think eventually they'll get to like a 24-month free trial if I just keep waiting to take the offer.
Yeah, Google needs they have so much money.
Yeah, they
can afford
they
it.
need that cash.
Yeah. A lot of these services bank on TV shows, like original programming as their hooks, right? Disney Plus, obviously.
Yeah.
And Netflix is the only one that's investing in movies, trying to bring that 2.5-hour cinema experience to home to get you on Friday night to watch Netflix as opposed to going to movie theaters. And I think they've not had a lot of success. Obviously they had a lot of things. It feels like the junk pile, the recycling pile for studios. They couldn't put in theaters, so they put Cloverfield Paradox on Netflix. And they got a bunch of money to pay for the cost. Like, did you guys like Bright? That was supposed to be their big.
I didn't watch Bright because Will Smith, but Mute was okay. I like Mute a lot. The Duncan Jones, like his fourth movie, I guess, after Warcraft. I mean, I thought it was charming and interesting and thought provoking.
None of these movies have been really critically acclaimed.
Well, they're on Netflix.
that's the problem, the association. I
Yeah.
think the first one, actually, there are two movies.
Why
out
would
this
that
week.
not translate to movies though? Because on television they do great. They won more Emmys than any other place.
It's
I
a
think
really
it's
good
just-
question.
it
I think
takes
the
time.
expectation. I think the type of storytelling you do in a 2.5-hour movie, like with Bright, you had AAA cast, great director, and for one reason or another, maybe that movie would have done well in theaters. But on Netflix, they held them to a different standard.
So I think so there's two examples that are bad that I'm going to give here. Annihilation is one. Everywhere but the United States, that was a Netflix release initially, and then was maybe simultaneous theatrical. Here they did a theatrical release and then staggered it by 6 months before it hit Netflix.
Yep.
And that movie's fantastic.
Yep.
It's really good.
And that movie was really made. The director, Alex
Garland.
Garland.
wanted that to be seen in theaters.
Yeah.
Like there's a huge climactic
I mean,
moment.
it's a gorgeous film. Like I have to imagine it would look better in theaters. I saw it on Netflix. The other one is I think Cloverfield Paradox is the kind of genre film that often doesn't get made anymore, right? Like it's I thought I quite enjoyed it. I like the Cloverfield movies. I loved the one with the bunker and John Goodman and oh God, what's her name from Scott Pilgrim?
You talking about 10 Cloverfield Lane?
Yeah, 10 Cloverfield Lane.
Yeah,
That was in
Mary
theaters.
Mary
Elizabeth
Elizabeth Winstead, thank you.
yeah.
I mean, I think that this, like, if you look at those Cloverfield movies, I mean, the first one was supposed to be a found footage movie, right? The second one was a found footage movie where J.J. Abrams went out and found a movie that was maybe could get jammed into the Cloverfield universe and then did. And this
I think
feels like
both of
the
those.
same. Yeah. Like I love that conceptually. It's such a fucking awesome, weird, high concept thing.
Yeah, I'm really bummed that Overlord isn't a Cloverfield movie.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
Anyway.
two
Yeah,
movies
Cloverlord.
Yeah, there you
It's
go.
already there. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're banging them out today, man.
I'm telling you.
These are free ideas. You should be dropping these on a
Going through a
podcast.
purple patch at the moment.
Email it to yourself real quick.
Two movies out this week on Netflix, I think, would maybe elevate the original movie programming to another level. One's Outlaw King. This is the Chris Pine Braveheart
Yeah, I've heard
movie.
interesting
Yeah.
things about that. They had a longer cut. Did you read about
Yeah,
this?
they screened it at Tribeca.
They screened it at a film festival. It was not well received because it was considered to be too long and too much fat.
Is this Robert the Bruce? Is that the
Yeah,
story?
it's the Robert the Bruce, Chris Pine playing Robert the Bruce.
So
Okay.
this is in if you only know the story through not history books but through Braveheart. This is the guy that betrayed William Wallace at the end
Yeah.
and then turned, and he's the one who leads the rebellion at the end.
So they had a much. I read an interesting piece about it. They had a much longer cut of it. Showed it at a film festival. It got a lukewarm response. The director said, "Let me go back in and fix it," and cut I think about 20-30 minutes out of it, and that's the version that you'll now see on Netflix, which is the edited down, supposedly much better version.
Yeah.
So I'm excited. I'm looking forward to the trailer. Looked good. I'll watch it. I like Chris Pine.
And that's a movie I would have seen in theaters, and I'm just glad it's part of the Netflix.
I was gonna
subscription.
say, is this a situation like All the President's Men and The Post, where they're like spiritual successors to each other?
Yes.
So you should watch Braveheart and then go watch William the Bruce.
I mean, historically,
Robert the Bruce.
they are chronologically
Okay.
one after the other.
There's
Although-
there was a scene in the earlier cut of Outlaw King where Robert the Bruce and William Wallace met, and
Oh.
that scene got cut from
Oh,
the final
interesting.
version that you'll see on Netflix.
Wow. They actually didn't paint their faces blue.
What?
So,
in history.
and you have seen Ballad of Buster Scruggs,
And that's the other
right?
movie.
Yeah.
That one. This is, I think, is the movie that can win Netflix maybe a movie award.
The
This is the
trailer
Coen
for it
brothers.
looks like is a banger.
So it is an anthology movie, which I don't think those typically do well in theater, especially original stories, anthology
Like 4
films.
rooms, like 8 people saw that in the theater.
Yeah. So this is 6
Two
stories.
people per room.
Yeah,
there you
exactly.
It's a Western. It's stylistically very different. Every story is different. I think they get better as you get to the end. A great cast from.
It's very much a Red Dead experience. You got to wait for the first
Tom
3
Waits.
hours to get to the good part, huh?
And you know what? Playing Red Dead and then watching this movie, they go really great hand in hand.
Okay.
I won't spoil any of the stories, but I'll tell you the framing mechanism is that a book, they open a book, The Ballad of Buster Scruggs, and just like in old-timey books, you would get color plates. Every so page, you get like a painting, right? And so they open up every story with a painting from the story with a caption at the bottom, but you'd have no idea what it means until you watch the story, and then that painting has extra meaning.
Big Fish kind of does that too, right? Or is it just the guy telling the story
I
in
think
Big
this guy
Fish?
telling the story.
Okay.
I'll have to check that out. I love the Coens. I like westerns. I'm in a western mood frame of mind right now because of Red Dead.
Yeah.
And I like short stories, so it's perfectly tailored for me.
And they've been a lot of westerns, right? They've been from True Grit, No Country is, I guess, a
No Country's
western,
a Western, yeah.
and This is
Brother, Where Art Thou?
Oh, Brother.
Kind of. It was set in the South, but it felt like a Western.
Yeah, exactly. This has a mixture of tonality of all of them. Tonally, it's like it's a little bit of the wacky, a little bit of the black humor, a lot of the bleak. So if you were prepared to be hit hard with some of these.
Okay, we'll check it out.
One of the things I've enjoyed about Red Dead is noticing the references. Like obviously it opens with a Hateful Eight type situation. I haven't seen a Liberty Valance set up yet.
This is the kind of story where this isn't riffing on anything else. These are stories that will get riffed on.
Yeah.
In
That's
future
good.
Red Dead type games.
Cohen's are A+.
Yeah. And then finally, Will, I know you've been playing Hitman. Tell us about that.
So I'm playing Hitman 2, which is the sequel to Hitman, I think 2016 maybe? I can't remember. It's came out a few years ago. It was an episodic game.
So it's called Hitman 2, but it's actually like the 15th Hitman game.
Yeah, so it's the second one in the current lineage. I think the last one petered out with Blood Money, which was maybe a 360 game. This one is a new engine. The Hitman 1 missions they released episodically, and it was the first one they kind of treated as a live game. So in addition to rolling out a new episode every month or two, a new mission, they would also roll out contracts and escalations and things to do in between. So basically the difference here is that in the old games you could play them like any other stealth game where you like sneak around with a knife and jab people in the back of the skull and kill them and hide their bodies. But the secret of the Hitman games is always doing something ridiculous and absurd in this otherwise serious world. So you're this assassin guy. You can creep around. Unlike most other stealth games, like your Dishonoreds or your Thieves or whatever, you can change clothes. So your stealth is not like creeping and crawling in the shadows. It's
just pretending to be someone else.
It's pretending to be a waiter to get in the position you need to do the thing. Right. So, for example, Hitman 2 continues the story from Hitman 1, which is the least important part of the game. If you have Hitman 1 on the platform that you buy Hitman 2 on, you can play all of the old missions in the new engine.
Okay.
With all sorts of new mechanics that they added to kind of round out the first go round, which is what I've been doing. I haven't even played. I played a little bit of one of the new missions so far, but there's mastery levels for each of the worlds. So in order to get the whole mastery level and unlock all the weapons and gadgets and the cool things that you want, like the noisemakers and the remote detonation bombs and the remote detonation rubber duckies and all that stuff, you have to kind of engage with the world in the way that it's designed to be engaged with. So instead of just sneaking around stabbing somebody in the back of the head, you have to figure out how to trigger the fire alarm and get the two people that you need to kill in the right place so you can drop a chandelier on them.
Okay.
Or get the two people to be standing in the right location so that you can sneak up on the balcony and push one of them over the edge and that person falls on the other person 3 stories down and kills both of them. Okay. Or
so they've designed
push a guy into a mulcher, right?
In place, costuming systems, AI systems, and just thought out all the myriad possibilities that you could kill someone as early in the mission as possible or as late in the mission as possible.
So it's not about speed often. It's
creativity.
It's much more like they build a clockwork world and there are triggers that cause events to happen. So in one of the games, this is a spoiler for Hitman 1, but in one of the missions you have to kill 2 people who are scientists working on a bioweapon and destroy the sample of the bioweapon, right? It's one of the best video game levels of all time, I think. And as you explore the world, you find out things about the characters. So you find out that the guy who's the mad scientist who's developing this bioweapon has real mommy issues. And like his mom recently died. She lived with him in the house. He doesn't like leaving the house because it's where he grew up and he has a great attachment to it. And you can put this sequence of events in place that makes him think his dead mother is still alive and drives him over the edge so that then you can get him in a position to chuck him into a mulcher, right? And like
that's bleak.
Yeah, it is.
Is this in the new one or in the previous game?
That's from the previous one.
Okay.
If you buy it and you don't have the old one, I would strongly recommend just paying the $15 or $20, whatever it is, to get all the new levels in the new game. You can do the mastery progressions, which unlocks, like I said, new weapons and new costumes and new starting locations in the levels and stuff like that. And as you get further along, you'll go from, if one of them is a fashion show and you start with as a guest at the fashion show, you'll eventually get to the point that you can like be a security guy on the top floor of the fashion show. So you already have access to a lot of the areas. And a lot of the game is figuring out how do I get into this area without trespassing or whatever. If you haven't played these before and you're curious about them, Giant Bomb did a thing for the game of the year the year that the last Hitman came out, which I think was 2016, called Hitsmas, Hitsmas, and just watch a couple of those videos and you'll see them. The magic of these games is figuring out how to do the absurd, not playing them like a traditional stealth game where you're sneaking around in the dark
And the game
stabbing somebody.
having the foresight to let you do those things.
So the difference between this Hitman, this generation of Hitman and the previous ones is before you maybe figured that out, the game didn't kind of lead you to it to figure out how to do it. Now they have things called mission stories, which are like explicitly pop-up UI elements that are like, hey, you just had a mission story. Do you want to see what this is? And you pop up a menu and it says, Bob has mommy issues.
I don't like that.
It's good for when you're starting, so you know what to listen for.
Got it.
But like Red Dead, you have to listen to the incidental dialogue, and you have to you'll find out. Oh, he has a lot of videotapes, old VHS tapes. He wanted them all destroyed, but I must have forgotten one. There was one up in the observatory or whatever.
It's a little bit of hand holding for people who don't listen.
It's breadcrumbs to get people started and looking in the right direction. If you play it like a traditional stealth game, you're going to be bored.
All right.
Hitman 2.
Alrighty, that does it for pop culture. Let's move on to some tech news. I don't have any music intro.
I also want to.
Go ahead.
I want to give a quick shout out to Tetris Effect.
Oh yes,
God, that
that's
game's
right.
so good.
Yes. Now, it's divisive in my household
What?
because
The baby doesn't like it?
Yeah, baby's not looking at the screen right now. Danica is not a fan of Tetris at Burning Man, which is what she's calling it. She just wants straight up Tetris.
You can make the colors on the blocks the standard colors.
And it's also kind of expensive. It's $40 for a Tetris game.
It's a really good Tetris
Like
game.
if you could buy Tetris on, is Tetris not on old platforms?
You can
But
get Puyo Puyo
It's
Tetris
on every
Steam.
platform.
yeah, you get Tetris on
Yeah.
Switch, and you get the Tetris experience. Here, really, what you get more is that you get the music and you get the design that lets you amp up the music as you play.
If your wife
Yeah.
doesn't like games by Miz, I don't know if we can be friends anymore.
That's
we're
the
gonna
thing. It's the Miz factor.
Yeah,
is
if you
what
don't like
really makes
Rez,
it.
you're not going to like Tetris.
First of all, I don't understand people that say, "Well, it's still just Tetris." That's like saying it's still just Mozart.
or
one of the-
Which is great, but I've bought Mozart a couple times before.
look,
already.
the London Philharmonic does, the Vienna Philharmonic does the best one. The
But
London
it is.
Philharmonic's
I
okay.
would say, I've been playing Tetris games now for almost 30 years. I first experienced and purchased Tetris in 1989 when it came out on the Game Boy, Nintendo Game Boy, and I still have that cartridge and that Game Boy. The number of hours I put into that thing with the serial link play and everything. Oh my god!
At some point, that thing might have just been a Tetris machine.
It's all it ever was. That cartridge is practically fused into the Game Boy.
Yeah.
I never put another cartridge in it. It was just a Game Boy It was just a Tetris handheld, and I've probably bought Tetris a dozen times since then. Tetris Splash on the Xbox 360, Tetris Ultimate on the Xbox One, Puyo Puyo Tetris on Nintendo Switch. I bought it many, many times over the years. I would say that Tetris Effect is the best version of it that I've played. And that's even without a multiplayer component, which under normal circumstances would be considered unforgivable.
So
Right.
I feel like it's the best one since they introduced the T-Spin. I still like the SNES version best, I think.
Do you use
I think T-Spin's bullshit.
Do you use I don't know what the technical term is, but the saving the piece on the corner?
The hold?
The
The
yeah,
hold.
you gotta
You have
use
to
the
do
hold.
Okay.
Hold's vital. If you want to
first introduced in the Nintendo 64 version, I believe. The ability to hold a
Isn't
piece.
the Nintendo version? Because it was in the
It
recent Tetris Championships.
Yeah, but it wasn't in the.
So hardcore Tetris players, there's a bit of a division about whether or not holding a piece is considered like pure Tetris.
You can turn it off.
When that was first brought in,
Yeah.
some high level Tetris players sneered at that as kind of like too baby.
So Tetris for babies.
Yeah. But it's been popular and it's stuck around ever since the hold piece.
I love the Windows 95 or 98 version of Tetris. That's a pretty good one.
It's a game that's exclusive right now to PS4 and of course works with PSVR. Jeremy and I are going to talk a little bit more about it later.
Pretty good in VR.
And it's one I wish was on like a device like the Oculus Go, on mobile VR. This is a game I want to play in bed.
I do have to try the
I don't have a
PSVR
gamepad.
version.
You can have
For
a
the
game.
no, but I'd have to get a gamepad.
The Bluetooth and Bluetooth will work.
Yeah.
Even the Xbox Bluetooth
Oh, really?
will work.
Okay.
Yeah. So hopefully it's just a time exclusive, and hopefully it will be on other platforms because
Yeah.
it's a game that I wish I could just. It's a perfect 5-minute game.
It's
5 to 10
unclear.
minute game.
You're bad at Tetris. It's like 35, 40 for me.
Yeah, it's a little too much.
I feel
Well, it
like
depends on the mode that you're playing. So I was like last
That's
night
true.
I was playing the mode score as many points as you can in 3 minutes.
Right.
Great mode.
It's unclear how much Sony paid for that. So it may be a forever exclusive. We'll see.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, Res Infinite never came out on Xbox.
that's true.
Came out on PC.
Yes, but that doesn't really count.
Well,
PC
but I mean,
stands
it's
apart.
Vive. Yeah, well, that's true.
Quickly, tech news. Black Friday will include that. Cyber Monday. Are you guys looking to buy anything?
Nope.
I'm not in the market, but you never know what might pop up.
I just replaced
There's
washers,
nothing I'm
dryers,
looking for. It's not
range,
like I
the
need a
whole thing.
TV or anything.
The-
But
the-
I mean, is there any early word on deals?
Well,
A
the
lot of
deals
game
have
deals.
started so early now.
Yeah.
Black Friday starts in the beginning of November. And so really the whole event on Friday, especially going to a store, who does that anymore?
Many people.
No, thank you.
Feels like it's
Some people say.
increasingly on the phones. And I will be on my phone, come Thursday night or Friday, looking for things. But nothing, I'm not in the market for really
I'll
any
keep
big
an eye
things.
out on my Twitter feed for whatever article pops up. Like, here are the 10 best, Cyber Monday deals or whatever. But I'm not. Like, I remember a few years ago, I wasn't in the market. But there was a deal on some really good headphones.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, I could use some headphones. And they were super cheap. I love those headphones.
Noise canceling headphones, I may be in the market for those because I got a tip that using noise canceling headphones in the middle of the night really helps when changing a baby's diaper. The baby's already
Oh,
crying.
so you don't wake up.
Or you don't, it doesn't hit that point where
So it just
really
does
hurts
drive
your
you
ears.
crazy.
Exactly.
Wario64 on Twitter is good for game and tech deals. If you don't follow him.
Black Friday or Cyber Monday, it's always a great time to buy last year's, high-end products, like last
Yep.
year's TV. If you want to get an OLED TV, we still are big fans of the LG.
Mhm.
The B6 series or B7, C7.
Yeah.
Those are fantastic. I don't think you need the 8 series ones. Or last year's laptop. Surface Pros are going really cheap. Surface Pro 6 is a great computer. Not big updates this year. That's a great laptop that I'd recommend getting
Cool.
for Black Friday. Gary, did you talk about your Model X last time you were here?
I don't remember.
I don't
Well,
think we
you've been
did.
using it differently this week because
It came
we
in
have-
handy this week because I paid extra for the premium package, which included something called Biohazard Defense Mode, which sounds
once
like
again.
sounds like a ridiculous Elon Musk silly Easter egg type thing. It came as part of it was the premium package includes like a better sound system, and I really like to listen to music in the car.
Yeah, of course.
So I paid for a better sound system, but it also included this thing, Biohazard Defense Mode, which is essentially a filter, an air filter that is supposed to be able to protect you in the event of a nuclear, or maybe not nuclear, but a biological or a
It's
chemical
a
weapons
HEPA
attack.
9N100 filter.
It's a very
right?
high-end filter. And with the air quality being as poor as it has been lately, we've actually used it quite a bit as we've been driving around.
Just go sit in the
You
car.
press the button and it blasts the AC, and you're breathing very, very clean, fresh type air, which is anyone else, particularly in Northern California right now, will know just how bad the air. It basically it feels like you're living in the middle of a massive bonfire.
What happens when you open the door? Does it like crank it up really high to positive pressure you or anything, or do you just get the bad air back in?
I think you just get the bad air back in.
Oh, that's
I
unfortunate.
mean, I've only opened the door. That's when you get home and you exit the car or
Yeah.
whatever. But it's been again, it's one of those features that I never thought I would have any use. It seemed like, oh yeah, how silly they've thrown this in just for a lark.
Yeah, autopilot. Haha.
But it's actually autopilot's good.
But it should, anyway, we talked about this while you weren't here. But yeah,
the
If you don't have it doesn't matter if you have a Tesla or not a Tesla, but if you're in California, you should drive with the recycled air setting on.
oh yeah, definitely, we always have that.
And don't take the outside air in. If you run max fan and recycled air, you will run the air through your filters, and that will be a significant difference
the thing.
in quality.
I mean, the interesting thing about the fires, California's Department of Air Quality posted a thing a couple of days ago that was like, hey, if you want to use up a mask to not breathe the bad air, it needs to be the kind with 2 straps and probably
That's
a
a
ventilator.
respirator.
It has to be an N95 or better. The higher numbers are better. And it's if you're wearing the kind that looks like a surgical mask with the flaps around the cheeks, you're not doing anything.
Yep, that doesn't actually filter
Yeah.
anything. Will, you came in today with your Android phone and showed us night mode on your Android phone.
Night sight.
Night sight. Tell us
Night
about
sight.
night sight and your experience with it.
It works really well.
This is Google's new
we
camera
talked about it
app.
a few weeks ago,
that,
but yeah, it lets you. They finally released it for Pixel phones. It lets you. It uses machine learning to combine multiple exposures, information from multiple exposures to get what I would describe as a shockingly clear image in. What would you say? Practically no. Like, were you able to see my face when you took that picture? Not
With my
like, your
eyes? Barely.
Yeah.
It's practically, I would say, very low light, practically black, not quite black.
Like Gina and I took a picture of Gina on the front porch of the house earlier this week, and the only light that we were getting was like reflected from across the street off of a street light, and like a couple of like twinkly lights that somebody had on bushes.
It's certainly
I
better
couldn't
than
see her
using a
face.
flash, which always gives you the
Yeah.
worst. I don't think I've taken a flash photograph in years.
Sucks.
I don't know why they even bother including it on the phones anymore.
It's
Like,
nice to have a
flashlight.
flashlight.
that's the only reason you use it now. You certainly don't use it for flash photography because it sucks.
And I wish it's a flashlight that you can change the color temperature on, especially on those phones with 2 different color LEDs.
Yeah. Well, so this one, like I couldn't see her face at all, and I got a picture that was grainy but usable.
Usable online.
Yeah.
You're not going to print it out, but it's better than
If
better
it's
than nothing.
like if it's like a birthday party, like if it's blowing out the candles at your kid's birthday, you might use it on. I mean, you
Something
might
like that
print it out.
I can see that being good. Yeah.
Hold still.
Yeah.
You might need to have your child hold still.
Well, and the interesting thing is if you put it on a tripod or rest it so that your hand's not moving. So it uses accelerometer and gyroscope data too. If your hand's not moving, it changes the exposure times dramatically.
Yeah.
And it seems like it uses 1 or 2 pictures to get the edges and then fills in color information over the multiple exposures and uses the machine learning to figure out how to combine them. It's really neat.
Yep. Everyone here have Alexa devices, Amazon devices?
Yeah, I have the corporate spy in my house.
If you have Skype, Microsoft is enabling Skype calls on
Great.
your devices.
Just what I wanted some more
this
Skype
week.
in my life.
Well,
Nothing better than
A
Skype.
lot of people use Skype.
Hey, you want to use Skype? You need to update it.
Yeah.
And
that's
probably
right.
have to sign back in, and then it's never going to sign out or never turn off when you want it to turn off.
I fucking hate Skype.
Fuck Skype.
So many people use it. Let me know when it uses Zoom.
I want
or
WhatsApp, man.
WhatsApp.
Get that next gen propaganda channel.
Yeah. Apple sales, little rumors. VentureBeat does a story. Actually, Wall Street Journal and VentureBeat does a story that Apple is cutting orders on all their 3 new iPhones with the XR up to half of its production, or no, 30% of the production cut because of lower than expected sales.
So they consider making the phones better.
Well, they did make them better.
Well, did they
Better
make them
than
more better?
You mean as good as they had been charging them for?
Here's
Here's-
I bought a $1,000 phone last year, and I
Yeah.
didn't regret it at all. It was very good.
You know,
This one did not look better enough to spend another $1,000, so I'm happy keeping the $1,000 phone from last year.
you read these Apple apologist blogs that say, yes, the phone is 30% more expensive last year, like when they started charging 1,000 over 600, but it's more than 30% better. Well, we had been expecting that year over year for the same price. That's why there are new phones every year.
Yeah.
Or don't release a new phone this year. You know, the iPhone 4 was 30% better than the iPhone 3G, and the 5 was over 30% better than the 4, but they kept it the same price. That's how new products are supposed to work, right?
Well, and the point of the 10 was, hey, we're going to put some new technology in here that's more expensive and we can't scale as much as we want. But then they sold 1 billion of the iPhone 10s and they still kept the price high. That's an interesting model.
It turns out that price elasticity isn't a problem for them, that people are really willing to pay this much because the economy's doing well or because there's a lot of money out there. But that also has hurt the XR, which in many ways is a lot like the 5C. And it's a better phone than what the 5C was because they didn't skip out on the processor. It has their best A12 processor.
It's just the OLED, right?
And,
Basically.
And it's just the one camera, but they have portrait mode with the one camera, and they have the LCD versus the OLED. You know, it's a different size, slightly different form factor, slightly bigger bezels, whatever, but it looks good. All the reviews said this is like probably the best iPhone bang for buck you're going to get, and yet no one cares because they just want the most expensive thing. And Apple is kind of trapped in that market where a lot of the consumers just want the prestige of having the latest and greatest that Apple has to offer.
I mean, part of their magic for a long time was that, you know, you go to the car dealer, you go to BMW to buy a car, and they have the $30,000 car with one number on it, and then they have a $250,000 supercar. And if you look at the difference between those two, you can tell, oh, this is the bad one and this is the good one. With the iPhone, if you buy the 16 gig iPhone 10, I mean, I know they didn't make a 16 gig iPhone 10, but if you bought the 16 gig iPhone 5S, then you still had a phone that looked like looked like the expensive ass 5S, not like they were visually identical. So you were getting the nice phone, whether you bought the $500 one or the $1,000 one.
Yep.
And now they've jacked that up.
And the XR is the only one that you can get the good capacity without paying too much for it. The 128 gigs that you don't have to pay.
It's $1,100 for the 128 gig 10, right?
No. For the 10S.
Yeah, 10s.
10s. No, there's only 256. You go from 64 to 256.
Oh, right. That's right. They screw you and
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's unfortunate.
Yep. So it just shows that the thing that helped them last year in terms of people willing to pay $1,000 for a phone is also hurting them this year because it turns out people don't want to pay less for something that seems inferior.
I mean, the other thing about this year, Gary, you actually bought one, right?
Well, I'm on the upgrade plan.
Okay. So
You get a new one every
technically,
year.
yes, but
you're just paying the same $50 you were paying before.
yeah, basically.
So
And you send the old phone back to Apple.
yeah. So I mean, the thing to me is that up until this point, there's been a compelling reason to upgrade more or less every year. Like, had I not been working at Tesla, I probably wouldn't have gotten a 6S, right? I would have kept the 6 Plus and been happy with it.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't have gotten the 4S for sure, the Siri one, because who fucking cares about Siri? But at the same time, most of the rest of the upgrades, they've provided a compelling reason. Either the camera's been markedly better, the battery life is better, something changes and makes the phone better. And this one, it seems like it's kind of meh, or to worse in some cases. I mean,
It's
battery
been the
life was
worst.
bad.
It's been the worst perhaps the worst year-on-year upgrade they've done. I mean, again, if I were not on the upgrade plan, there's no way I would have done it.
So
Yeah.
speed, 3G or 3GS, right? Speed, Siri.
And the camera
touch-
was way better on the 3S than the
Right.
3G.
So speed and camera, great upgrade. Siri, I think, was questionable upgrade
Yeah,
as an S.
yeah. Battery life was better on that one though.
The
5 to 5S.
Touch ID,
That was a
I
great
think that was
one.
a great upgrade. 6S for press for taptic feedback.
3D
Garbage.
touch, which
3D
was,
touch,
which
I'm
was
sorry.
a waste of time.
That was big.
Yeah,
I think
6S.
that is the biggest waste of an upgrade.
The other thing that's interesting is having the Face ID phone and then going back to this Pixel 2 with the fingerprint sensor.
Yeah.
When you're wearing a mask all the time, Face ID turns out is useless.
Sure. Yeah.
I'm typing my code in, and that delay between when Face ID tries to do its thing and then realizes it's going to fail, real bummer with the mask on. I mean, it's a problem for 3 weeks a year in like a small part of the country, but it's an annoyance if you're wearing a scarf in the winter in Chicago, I'm sure.
I think that does it for this week's episode. We've gone really long, and thank you guys both for coming in. You had Thanksgiving plans?
I'm making Thanksgiving. He's coming.
Nice.
His family's coming.
Come.
I'm sorry.
You have people who.
Yeah,
but we're going to do some kind of
unvaccinated masses.
some kind of alternative plan, I think.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
we'll do something.
People want to see the
You
baby.
won't be left out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're gonna hang out at home.
We'll just put you up on Skype on the TV.
I'll
It'll
be
great.
in Red Dead.
Yeah, I don't
All
think that's true. I think if you're in Red Dead, you're gonna have probably spousal problems. You should spend time with your family on Thanksgiving.
Spending time with my family.
I
Spending time
know,
with my family.
Yeah, with Dutch and
Yeah.
Exactly.
Javier
All it's
and
20 of
your
them.
real
Mrs.
family.
Grindlebottom.
Exactly.
Whatever her name is.
Thank you both for joining this
course.
week. Hope you all out there have a great Thanksgiving, and we'll be back next week with another episode. I don't have any outro music. Maybe I'll just put something in the post editing. But until then, we'll see you next time.
Bye, everybody.